LoveLore Library. Chapter 307. The waitress also knew her limits. After scolding, she didn't say anything else. She turned around and chose a small toy from the shop, paid for it, and left. The lady boss of the shop she chose was the most talkative person on the entire street. Whatever she heard a moment ago, she would spread it out in the blink of an eye. Moreover, she would exaggerate it and cause an uproar. As expected, seeing the waitress return to Yuling Tea Pavilion, the lady boss couldn't sit still. She happily shared it with the people she knew on the street. In the past, the business of the Jiang family's tea house was good, and it had always been arrogant. However, in the past 2 months, it had withered day by day. Many people were waiting to see a joke. Now that the mother and son of the Jiang family had done such a thing to their peers, how could it not become the topic of conversation after dinner? Instantly, it became an uproar. Their own tea house wasn't making money, yet they went to someone else's tea house to cause trouble. These people could only win, but they couldn't afford to lose. The role of neighbors was still very important. For example, when customers wanted to drink tea but didn't know which tea house was better, the neighbors would be of some use. Especially on such a good day like today, when the opening of Yuling Tea Pavilion was so lively, there were many customers who asked about the situation. "Are you asking about that tea house? It just opened, and I heard that the tea there is good." Even the people of the first tea house went there to take advantage of it. Similar words were heard incessantly today. The mother and son of the Jiang family still didn't know that they were famous, and were still sitting upright and still drinking tea. Although the Jiang family sold tea, Mother Jiang didn't like drinking tea. Compared to the bitter taste, she preferred to drink sweet soup. Now that there were 2 pots of tea in front of her, she drank until her face turned green. Most importantly, she felt that the surrounding atmosphere was very strange. It was different from the customers they had received in the past. Their faces were not relaxed, and they were all wearing formal suits. They didn't look like they were here to relax, but to attend some kind of important occasion. "Mom, this tea is not good at all. Why is it so expensive?" Jiang Xia said directly. Fortunately, they didn't have to pay this time. Otherwise, it would be too much of a loss. Also, no wonder their business was getting worse and worse. How could they sell such things? They might as well open a coffee shop. At least they could keep up with the trend. Mother Jiang rolled her eyes at him. "You don't understand. Some refined people like to drink this." She remembered that some customers in the shop used to say that they could feel the bitterness of life before sweetness when drinking tea. Also, when making tea, the tea leaves were like the ups and downs of life. She did not know the specifics. She only knew that once those people drank this tea, they would become very elegant and quiet. Their words would also be quite reasonable. Jiang Xia curled his lips and secretly shook his head. Mother Jiang downed the small cup of tea in one gulp. As she drank, she turned her head to look around. When she heard the people around her praising the fragrance of the tea, her heart was filled with hatred. After thinking for a moment, he suddenly clutched his stomach and cried out. "Ah, it hurts. Little Xia, Mom's stomach hurts. Did I get poisoned?" She even knocked over the teacup, but she didn't want to get tea stains on her, so she rolled on the ground. This reaction startled the other guests. They didn't know whether to put down their cups or drink. Although most of the other guests were upstairs, there were a few in the hall. When they saw this scene, their faces turned pale. What was going on recently? Previously, people almost died from drinking too much tea at the first tea pavilion. Now, something happened on the opening day of this new tea house. Could it be that there was a problem with the tea leaves now? Chapter 308. Fortunately, most of the people in the hall were experienced people who had seen the world. Moreover, they remembered that Jing Yunzhao was a doctor, so although they were shocked, they didn't panic. The waiter quickly went to find Chu Rong. When Chu Rong heard that someone had a stomachache, she was also shocked, but she was more puzzled. When she rushed over with Jing Yunzhao, she realized that the person who had a stomachache was actually a member of the Jiang family. Her confusion was completely solved. She couldn't help but mock Mother Jiang. This Mother Jiang was too impatient. Even if she wanted to pretend to be poisoned, she should have found someone she didn't know. If she was exposed later, where would her face go? Actually, Mother Jiang was already regretting it. It was just that she felt uncomfortable when she heard so many people praising this shabby tea house. That was why she pretended to be poisoned. However, after thinking about it carefully, she knew that she was in the wrong. But now that things had come to this, she could only comfort herself. Moreover, this was the first day of the tea house's opening. If she caused trouble, the impact would be greater. Mother Jiang hugged her stomach and howled on the ground. Jing Yunzhao glanced at her coldly. "Auntie Jiang, you drank poisoned tea in your own house. Why are you rolling around in our Yuling tea house?" Jiang Xia turned around and his heart skipped a beat. Why was Jing Yunzhao here? Mother Jiang was even angrier. You wretched girl. I'm really in so much pain," Jing Yunzhao smiled. "Don't be anxious. We'll know soon whether it's really painful or not." Her face was still rosy and lustrous. There wasn't a single spot on her body that looked like she was poisoned. Yet, she said that she was in pain. Did she think that she, a doctor, was just a decoration? Jing Yunzhao's words had calmed the frightened guests down. This woman's surname was Jiang. She even said that she drank poisoned tea in her own house. Then, she was from the first tea house. Especially now that they took a closer look, they felt that it was right. Those who liked to drink tea were all old customers. Some of them had seen Mother Jiang before. As for Jing Yunzhao, there were very few people who could recognize her now. After all, when her video was posted on the internet, she had a cold and aloof temperament. After more than 2 months of washing, her temperament had become much more gentle. In addition, she had spent more time in the space, and her appearance had become more beautiful. Now that she appeared here, people who didn't know her generally wouldn't associate her with the character on the internet. Why are you still making sarcastic remarks? My mother is already in this state, quickly call an ambulance. Jiang Xia didn't know that his mother was faking it. His anxious expression didn't seem fake. Jing Yunzhao glanced at the tea on the table and said, "There's no need. I'm a doctor. What a waste of such a good thing." Jing Yunzhao walked over and used violence to drag Mother Jiang to the middle of the hall. He used one hand to clamp down on both of Mother Jiang's wrists so that she couldn't move at all. His knees pressed down on her body, and her entire body was fixed in a certain position. His other hand pressed against her abdomen as he chuckled. "Does it hurt here?" "It hurts. It hurts." Although Mother Jiang was dissatisfied, she still said it. "How about here?" Jing Yunzhao changed his position and asked again. "It hurts too." Jing Yunzhao nodded with a smile that wasn't a smile. "Then here, it hurts too." "That's right. My stomach hurts so much. This tea isn't clean." Mother Jiang clenched her teeth. She didn't see the reaction of the person who drank the intestine-severing grass. Since it was something unclean, what else could she do besides having a stomachache? Chapter 309. Jing Yunzhao didn't let go of her hand as she looked at Chu Rong. "Bring my bag over." Chu Rong didn't know what she was going to do, but she did as she was told. Jing Yunzhao's bag was placed at the front desk. Chu Rong felt that the bag was very light, but she didn't think much of it. Jing Yunzhao took the bag and rummaged through it before taking out an exquisite little box. When she opened it, everyone saw that there were silver needles of different sizes neatly arranged inside. The other guests didn't know the situation, but the guests knew that Jing Yunzhao's medical skills were amazing. Since she took out the silver needles, she was naturally going to treat this woman with acupuncture. The few of them couldn't help but admire her. The godly doctor was indeed amazing. She even knew acupuncture. But they didn't know if acupuncture could cure the poison. "What are you doing?" Jiang Xia saw the thin silver needles and immediately stopped her. "Since Mrs. Jiang is poisoned, please don't disturb Miss Jing's treatment." Chu Rong immediately stopped Jiang Xia. He also just found out that the big boss was a doctor today. So these big shots were all her patients. It was simply amazing. Jiang Xia wasn't as strong as Chu Rong and was blocked behind her. Mother Jiang saw the silver needles and immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. Where did this freak come from? She actually brought these silver needles with her. Did she think that reality was a soap opera? She could casually stab anyone she met. "Let go of me," Mother Jiang immediately said. Unfortunately, Jing Yunzhao was a martial artist. Mother Jiang was a woman with little strength. How could she compete with her? Even after struggling for a while, she still couldn't move. Jing Yunzhao held the silver needles in one hand and said with a smile, "Don't move. Otherwise, if you stab the wrong place, you will lose your life." She had just bought these silver needles. In the past 2 months, she had absorbed 4 pieces of spirit jade. The last piece of spirit jade had already involved some acupuncture techniques, but it was still very simple. Moreover, acupuncture couldn't only rely on memory. Therefore, she specially bought some models and began to practice her skills in the space. Hearing her say that, Mother Jiang was in a bad mood. "You damn girl, you dare to stab me. If something happens to me, you won't be able to bear the consequences. What nonsense are you talking about? I saw that you were in trouble, so I came to help you." Jing Yunzhao flashed the silver needle in front of her eyes. In the next second, he lifted up all the parts of her body that could be lifted up. Feeling the chill on her body, Mother Jiang knew that Jing Yunzhao wasn't joking. In the next second, he felt as if a numbing sensation was approaching, and his brain instantly crashed. "There's no need for treatment. I'm done. It doesn't hurt anymore." Jing Yunzhao paused. "Are you sure?" Mother Jiang nodded repeatedly. "It was very painful just now, but it's fine now. It shouldn't be a major poison." He was obviously telling others that the tea was still poisonous. Jing Yunzhao let go of her, only to see her immediately climb up from the ground. "What's wrong with you, little girl? You drugged the patients in our family's tea house, and now you're stabbing me with a needle. Are you crazy?" Mother Jiang, who had just escaped from the restraint, immediately shouted. Jing Yunzhao put the silver needles back into the box and walked over to where she was sitting just now. He raised his hand and picked up the teapot. Without saying a word, he began to gulp down the tea. Her vulgar actions brought about a strange sense of beauty. After Jing Yunzhao finished drinking, she wiped her mouth and placed the teapot on the table. The sound was so powerful that it made people's hearts skip a beat. Chapter 310. You said you had a stomachache, so I treated it for you. In the end, you rolled on the ground and howled for a while before you recovered. Auntie Jiang, you're the lady boss of the opposite tea house. Who would believe you if you said you weren't pretending to harm Yuling Tea Pavilion? Jing Yunzhao opened his mouth and continued, "Now, I've also drunk this tea. It's exactly the same without any difference in taste. In fact, I drank more than you, so why am I fine? Could it be that this tea has eyes and can recognize people? She knows that you're a black-hearted old witch, so she let you taste the poisonous apple formula. Chu Rong's mouth twitched. Wasn't Snow White the one who ate the poisonous apple? Why did she become an old witch when it came to Jing Yunzhao? Mother Zhang's face turned pale and green. As for the others, they completely understood. Those customers who were worried earlier were completely relieved. If it was someone else, they might think that Yuling Tea Pavilion was not clean. But it was the lady boss of the number 1 tea house. Then why was the number 1 tea house's business getting worse and worse? Wasn't it because there was a problem with their tea house? Now that the number 1 tea house's business was bad, they must be jealous of Yuling Tea Pavilion, so they used the same method to accuse them. Their thoughts were too vicious. No matter what, they would never step into that tea house in the future. Besides, the taste of Yuling Tea Pavilion's tea was much better than that of the number 1 tea house. After tasting a mouthful, the fragrance lingered on their cheeks. The color of this tea was also top-notch. In the past, the number 1 tea house's reputation was bigger, but other places were not as good as the number 1 tea house. That was why they could only go there. But now, there was another Yuling Tea Pavilion. In that case, they would not have to suffer anymore. In this tea house, the staff's attitude was not only amiable, but their service was also very good. Even the refreshments were fresh and clean, and the taste was also very good. Other tea houses could not even compare. Jing Yunzhao, you and Jiang Xia were classmates. Even if our little Xia did you wrong in the past and broke up with you, you shouldn't be so vicious and bear a grudge until now, right? That needle just now, if it really pierced my body, how painful would it be? If the tip of the needle had pierced my flesh, the consequences would have been very serious. Mother Jiang angrily reprimanded. She felt that regardless of whether she was faking it or not, the owner of this tea house should come forward and send her to the hospital first. But now, the boss didn't appear, and the manager didn't say anything. Instead, Jing Yunzhao was taking the initiative. Who did she think she was? Why was she in every tea house? Break up. Jing Yunzhao's eyes darkened. Jiang Xia was also stunned, but in the next second, he couldn't help but admire his mother's quick-wittedness. Those letters had been destroyed, and the previous matter could be considered over. If he told others that Jing Yunzhao was the girl he had dumped, he would feel better. However, the others present couldn't help but sigh in disbelief. How could Jing Yunzhao fancy such a cowardly smiling boy? How was that possible? Some people's mental fortitude was just that bad. They failed in courtship and instead became resentful, so they would ruin the other party's reputation. She believed that this little boy should be such a person, right? You think that just because the letters were destroyed, you can say whatever you want, right? Jing Yunzhao suddenly opened his mouth and said. After saying that, he took out his phone, and a trace of contempt flashed across his face. In the next moment, he opened the photo gallery. Instantly, Jiang Xia panicked. He saw that Jing Yunzhao's phone still had the photos of the love letters saved. Every word was very clear, especially his signature at the end. How could this be? She had used the love letters to exchange for 100,000 yuan from their family. Chapter 311. When Mother Jiang saw this, she almost went crazy from anger. What's wrong with you, you bitch? Didn't we agree to exchange 100,000 yuan for the letter? You actually went back on your word. How can there be such a vicious girl? She's only 16 or 17 years old, but her heart is already so complicated. Auntie Jiang, please be more polite. Jing Yunzhao kept his phone and said, when dealing with people like you, if I don't hold back, who knows what will happen in the future? Look, it's working now, isn't it? If it was someone else, she might have believed their promise, but Jiang Xia. Although she didn't accept Jiang Xia's pursuit in her past life, he still pestered her for a long time. How could she not know what kind of person he was? Moreover, when Jiang Xia wrote the love letter, she let him go. On one hand, she felt that this matter wasn't dignified, and on the other hand, she had already beaten Jiang Xia up. If she examined his injuries, she wouldn't be in the right. However, it was different now. Jiang Xia's injuries had already healed completely, and there weren't any traces left. As for being dignified and embarrassing. In comparison, who was more embarrassing? Firstly, she didn't accept Jiang Xia's pursuit. Secondly, she had self-respect and self-respect. Now, even if she spread the matter out and let the school handle it, she wouldn't be affected at all. At this moment, the Jiang family's mother and son pair withered. The Jiang family only had one son, Jiang Xia. Jing Yunzhao, don't be so ruthless. If you force us into a corner, who knows what we might do? Mother Jiang gritted her teeth and said. Jiang Xia was already in a daze. His mind was filled with the contents of the love letter he wrote. He didn't know what to do. The Jiang family had to spend quite a lot of money to clean up his mess. Because of this love letter, they spent 100,000 yuan. Later on, when the shop was in trouble, it was because someone used Jiang Xia's safety to threaten Mother Jiang that they lost 600,000 yuan. Not only that, when Jiang Xia and Chao Hongye were together, Chao Weiman made a fuss. The Jiang family also took out some money to shut Chao Weiman's mouth. In short, ever since Jiang Xia entered high school, this money flowed into other people's pockets like flowing water. Although the Jiang family was rich, no one's money could withstand such a large amount of squandering. I'm not the one who did the wrong thing. I'm just returning an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. If you're desperate, then go ahead. No matter what move you use, I'll take it. Who's afraid of who? Jing Yunzhao snorted. Mother Jiang was speechless. Jiang Xia gritted his teeth and said, Jing Yunzhao, why do you have to do this? If you're angry because of what my mother said just now, then I apologize to you. Please delete the photos in your phone. Tea money. Jing Yunzhao only said 2 words. Isn't your tea free? Mother Jiang roared. That's right, it's free, but that's for customers. But are you a customer? To be more accurate, you're a fellow traveler who's here to scout for information. Furthermore, you're here to frame Yuling Tea Pavilion, so what's wrong with asking you to pay for the tea? Besides, you have to compensate us for the cost of the teacups, right? Jing Yunzhao said. This was an authentic purple clay cup. There were different grades of purple clay cups. The cheap ones were over 100 yuan, the medium ones were over 1,000 yuan, and the best ones were over 10,000 yuan. Coincidentally, the one that Mother Jiang had smashed was priced at 3,000 yuan and was made from purple mud. Actually, the Junshan silver needle could have been made with a glass cup, but Mother Jiang thought that she knew a lot about tea leaves and tea sets. Thus, when she drank the tea, she specifically asked the waiter to change it to the best tea set. She sincerely wanted to disgust others, but in the end, she was the one who was disgusted. Who could she blame? Isn't it just a broken teacup? Don't think that I haven't bought purple clay cups before. Why would I need so much money? 3,000 yuan is enough to buy 10 or 20 of them. Chapter 312. Mother Jiang was so angry that she was heaving up and down. She lowered her head to look at the broken teacup on the floor. It did seem a little different from the one she bought. Pfft, the waiter at the side couldn't help but laugh. Mrs. Jiang, the Yixing clay cups in your shop are all low-grade goods. They are made from raw ore, which is different from this Yixing clay. Let me tell you, our Yixing clay cups were personally selected by our manager. This kind of teacup has a smooth flow of air, good ventilation, and can reflect the fragrance of the tea. Even if you don't use it to drink tea, it's still good for your collection, the waiter said. Of course, these words were taught by Chu Rong. Yixing clay was the most suitable for some teas, so the shop would prepare a little of each type of cup to be used according to the tea leaves. Mother Zhang's heart was filled with anger. She was a businesswoman and had been in the tea shop business for so many years. Her first consideration was naturally to make money. Who would buy such expensive things to put in the shop? If it broke, she would be heartbroken. You can't blame me. How would I know it was so expensive? Mother Zhang's face seemed to have more wrinkles. You didn't know. The waiter smiled. When you came in, you asked for the more expensive tea in our shop. You refused to use the glass cup I brought and insisted on using Yixing clay. You even said you wanted the best. You're not playing dumb with me, are you? Mother Jiang turned her head away. She was just deliberately nitpicking. Who knew that the waiter would be so obedient and really bring such good things? There were so many people present, and everyone liked the quiet environment. Jing Yunzhao didn't want to make others unhappy, so he first asked the waiter to clean up the stains on the floor. There are so many witnesses here. Mrs. Jiang, you should think carefully. Either you pay up today, or we call the police. But if things get out of hand, the one who will lose face is your Jiang family's tea shop, not our Yuling Tea Pavilion, Chu Rong said directly. Mother Zhang's face was tense. There was no extra expression, like a zombie. I'll pay, I'll pay. The veins on her forehead were about to explode from anger. Stepping on her high heels, she walked step by step towards the front desk and took out her wallet. The total value of the teacups and tea was about 4,000 yuan. Jing Yunzhao kindly helped her remove the odd number and ended up with a total of 4,000 yuan. The money for a meal, Mother Jiang wanted to vomit to death. How did you know to give her such a good tea set? Could it be that you can predict it? Chu Rong was surprised. Actually, when Mother Jiang mentioned that she wanted to change the tea set, the waiter brought over an ordinary purple sand tea set. However, after Jing Yunzhao saw it, he specially found a good quality one to replace it. I just think that the mother and son are definitely up to no good. Take something good and send it up. If it gets smashed, we can take the opportunity to advertise it. Jing Yunzhao chuckled. The corner of Chu Rong's mouth twitched. That was right. The waiter in their shop was also vicious and vengeful. He said that the tea set of the first tea house was of inferior quality. Everyone heard it. Drinking tea was a type of enjoyment, but the tea set was also extremely important. Now, at least in the eyes of a portion of the people, no matter if it was the tea leaves or the tea set, the Yuling Tea Pavilion was extremely meticulous. It was believed that there would be some customers who would especially want to try the taste of the tea brewed from these fine Yixing cups. Although they had to pay for it if it was broken, this was a tea shop. In such a quiet and elegant place, there would not be any fights. If it was not intentional, the teacup would not be broken. Moreover, there was a wooden floor and a layer of velvet carpet. If the teacup fell naturally, it would not even make a sound. How could it break a corner like Mother Jiang? Chapter 313. The Jiang family's mother and son left in a flustered and exasperated manner. It was simply a double loss. But in less than 2 hours, they found out that everyone outside knew that they had gone to Yuling Tea Pavilion to take advantage of the situation and even smash things. They didn't know who was the one with such a loose mouth, spreading the news like wildfire. Jiang Wenxing was so angry that he wanted to kill someone. He had never seen such a stupid person. He told her to check out the situation, but she acted recklessly. It was fine if she didn't destroy the other party, but she also lost money and reputation. However, the Jiang family didn't know that the truth wasn't so simple. On the second day of school, Jing Yunzhao went to the principal's office and handed over Jiang Xiao's love letter. The principal's face darkened when he saw it. If this matter were to spread, it would affect the school's reputation. The higher-ups would definitely criticize this highly respected principal. Therefore, Jing Yunzhao didn't want to make a big deal out of it. After all, the school had helped her a lot in the past. The principal was also a practical leader. There was no need for her to be criticized because of Jiang Xia. Jing Yunzhao had already sent this letter to the school. How could the school let such a morally corrupt person stay? If Jiang Xia had only written a normal love letter, he would at most be given a warning. If he didn't change his ways, he would only be given a demerit. However, the content of this love letter was outrageous. Therefore, the school directly expelled him. Jiang Xia thought that this matter was over, but now it was dug up again. Being expelled was a stain on his academic record. If he wanted to find a good school, he would have to spend a lot of money. However, he wasn't willing to go to those second or third-rate schools. It was all Jing Yunzhao's fault. She beat him up, cheated him of 100,000 yuan, and now she had ruined him. Although the love letter didn't spread out and cause a huge commotion, this kind of expulsion would definitely be announced to the whole school. Now, everyone knew that he had written such a filthy and unbearable thing. The female students who were close to him in the past didn't even bother with him anymore. They even stared at him with a look of disgust. How could this be? In the past, he was the class monitor and had a good relationship with everyone. He was also one of the top 10 school hunks in the school and the captain of the basketball team. There were countless girls who liked him. But now, he was kicked out of the school. The difference was too big. When they found out that Jiang Xia had been expelled, the Jiang parents were even more shocked. Why didn't we just let Jing Yunzhao spread the information? We won't lose so much money and end up with nothing. Jiang Wenxing gritted his teeth. At that time, Jing Yunzhao even hit Jiang Xia. She might even have to pay for it. Jiang Xia lowered his head, feeling defeated and anxious. Dad, can you send me to Serene City to study? The learning environment there is very good. Zhang Xian said after a while. If it was in the past, then Jiang Wenxing would have considered it, but now he immediately shook his head. Impossible, you were expelled from school, those schools in Ning City would call to inquire about your situation. When the time comes, they would also know about it. No matter how much money I spend, they might not be willing to recruit a student like you. Little Xia, I advise you to give up. There are many high schools in the county. Just pick one. It's better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. When you go to that school, your grades will be able to overshadow everyone. Those teachers won't care what you've done in the past. Jiang Wenxing said again. Those third-rate schools didn't recruit students with good grades. Their admission rate was pitifully low. If Jiang Xia went there, they would naturally welcome him. Oh right, when you went to Yuling Tea Pavilion, what was Jing Yunzhao doing? Was he a part-time waiter? Chapter 314. Jiang Wenxing was puzzled. Previously, when his wife and son mentioned Jing Yunzhao, they seemed to be saying that Jing Yunzhao had a very high position in Yuling Tea Pavilion. Even the manager allowed her to make the decisions. Logically speaking, this shouldn't be the case. Jing Yunzhao didn't have a good family background. Although she didn't lack money, she was only a high school student. Even if she looked for a job, she would at most be a waitress. However, a waitress couldn't possibly make the manager listen to her orders. Then could the tea house be Jing Yunzhao? Jiang Wenxing thought of this point, but immediately shook his head. Even though Jing Yunzhao had swindled 100,000 from the Jiang family, but to open a tea house like that, let alone 100,000, even if it was 500,000, it still might not be enough. Tea leaves, tea sets, waitresses, and renovations, which one of them didn't cost money? Moreover, they heard that the house was directly sold to the owner of the tea pavilion, so it was even more impossible. But why was that? We also don't know. In any case, Jing Yunzhao's words seem to be very effective. Manager Chu's attitude towards her is also different from others, as if she is the manager. Jiang Xia muttered. Hubby, didn't she appear in our tea house before? Did she come here to scout for information to sell to others? Mother Jiang asked. Anger flashed across Jiang Wenxing's face, but in the blink of an eye, it was clear that it was impossible. Their tea house didn't have any information at all. It was just some tea that could be drunk after soaking it in water. There was nothing to research. If it wasn't for the fact that he had misjudged the heartbreak grass, he would have believed that Jing Yunzhao's purpose in coming here was to poison them. But no matter what, he had formed a grudge with Jing Yunzhao. Jiang Wenxing secretly hardened his heart. After hesitating for a few days, he found that Yuling Tea Pavilion's business didn't decrease. He made up his mind to make a phone call. 2 days later, Jing Yunzhao left Old Man Su's house on the road and felt a murderous aura around her. The alley was filled with people. There were 40 to 50 of them, and the people behind her were following closely behind her. Some of the people in front of her were leaning against the wall and smoking, while others were squatting on the ground with their arms around each other's shoulders, waiting for someone. When they saw her, they all stood up and slowly gathered together, getting closer and closer. Jing Yunzhao took out her phone, but one of the men snatched it from her hand. Jing Yunzhao, right? You want to call the police? We'll talk about it in 10 minutes. With her ability, she could definitely protect her things, but it wasn't time yet. Besides, she didn't want to call the police just now. Who are you? Jing Yunzhao pretended to be scared. Are you scared now? The leader smiled and said, Look, everyone. That family even said that she was very good at fighting, but it doesn't seem to be anything special. Little girl, just cooperate with us and don't resist. We won't hit you too much. The other party just wants us to break one of your arms and legs and scratch your face. Seeing that you're not bad looking, we'll be more straightforward and won't act recklessly. What do you think? The leader laughed. These words made it sound like her arms and legs were made of dough. Jing Yunzhao didn't even have to think before she said, Jiang Wenxing. The other party grinned and didn't say anything, but Jing Yunzhao knew that there was no one else other than them. Although the He family could be involved, she heard from Tang Zihua that the Tang family had withdrawn their investment in 2 of the He family's projects. The He family was very busy now and couldn't even take care of themselves. They also knew that they had violated Old Man Tang's taboo, so they wouldn't come and find trouble with her at this time. You don't have to ask anymore. Asking too much will only bring trouble to yourself. Also, after we leave, you can call the police. But if you say something you shouldn't say, you have to be careful when you walk in the future, especially when the night is dark and the wind is strong. Chapter 315. The leader was in his 20s and didn't look very good. He had slanted eyes, thin lips, a big nose, and some pockmarks on his face. However, this person had a bit of momentum when he spoke. He was sloppy and looked like a ruffian. At first glance, one could tell that he had mingled in the streets. Jing Yunzhao had encountered others before, but the number of people before was small, and they were not even some martial artists. After all, these people in front of him were all punks who fought and killed every day. This boss seemed to have some martial arts skills, so naturally, he could not be compared with the people he had encountered before. There have been people who threatened me before, but some of them went to prison, and some of them were beaten until they could no longer stand up. Which one do you think you are? Jing Yunzhao suddenly said. At that time, Lu Jiao and her cousins also said that they would scratch her face and let her cooperate well, but in the end, the unlucky one was not her. The other party was stunned, and then suddenly laughed. Strange things happen every year, especially this year. Brothers, did you hear that? What did this little girl say? Are they threatening us now? Why can't I hear it? If you have the ability, say it again for me to hear. The boss exaggeratedly stretched his ears, his face full of ridicule and contempt. When the punks behind him heard this, they immediately flattered, "Is she scared silly? Big brother, this chick is quite good-looking. How about we take her to play?" Go. What play? We have received money, so we have to follow the rules. Okay, little girl, I won't talk nonsense with you. We brothers have offended you. The boss replied, and after that, he gave the brothers next to him a look. Suddenly, some punks came forward and tried to restrain her hands. Since this group of people insisted on fighting, then she did not need to be polite. With a flip of her hand, Jing Yunzhao directly clamped down on the two hooligans who came forward. The two's hands were twisted at a strange angle. They couldn't react in time and cried out in pain. Jing Yunzhao raised her leg and ruthlessly kicked the two hooligans. In an instant, the two hooligans' faces hit the ground, scraping out a patch of blood. When the others saw this, they raised their eyes to look at the boss. The boss also didn't think that Jing Yunzhao would actually have the ability to resist. He frowned, "Since you're not obedient, then we don't have to be polite to you. Brothers, charge!" With a loud shout, the small alley was instantly thrown into chaos. 40 to 50 people rushed towards Jing Yunzhao. Even if they were barehanded, the formation was truly frightening. That night, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The surroundings were quiet and devoid of people. Even the number of residents was pitifully small. Although these people were making a lot of noise, who would notice them when they were hidden in the dark? In the eyes of the boss, it was a sure-win situation. Thus, when he saw his brothers step forward, he immediately retreated to the back to watch the battle. However, a few howls suddenly rang out, and the first wave of people who rushed up were instantly shaken out. In the next second, Jing Yunzhao leaped into the air like a bolt of lightning, kicking towards the second group of people. Her jump was as high as a person's height. She twisted her body and wrapped her legs around a person's neck, flinging him away. The boss stood there in shock, feeling a cold wind behind him. He was confused. What's going on? Does she really know martial arts? When Jiang Wenxin contacted him, he did mention that Jing Yunzhao had a violent personality. Previously, she had beaten up the son of the Jiang family until he could not get out of bed. The people in the school also said that she had some skills, but there was always a gap between rumors and reality. He thought that Jing Yunzhao was just a little stronger than others. Chapter 316. But now, with more than 50 people facing Jing Yunzhao, they couldn't even put up a fight. The leader's face was ashen, as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Seeing one of his brothers beaten to the ground and unable to get up, he couldn't help but curse. How could he still stand behind and watch the fight? He took out a knife from his pocket. The knife wasn't long, about the length of a hand after unfolding, but it looked extremely sharp, flashing a cold light in the night. Jing Yunzhao vaguely felt danger approaching. He glanced around and saw the arrogant leader just now. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and he clenched his fists, making cracking sounds. His cold gaze was like a venomous snake in the darkness of the night, staring at the person who had just arrived. The leader took advantage of the moment when the other brothers were attacking and suddenly drew the blade, stabbing towards Jing Yunzhao. Ah! A mournful cry sounded. But he felt a sharp pain in his shoulder. He didn't know how Jing Yunzhao had split into two, but his technique was amazing. He had directly pulled the leader's forearm, stabbed backwards, and swung the military knife, leaving a long scar on his body. Instantly, the smell of blood filled the tip of his nose. The leader was stabbed, and the brothers were obviously weakened. Some of them were still on the ground, unable to get up, and some were cautiously holding their stomachs, hesitating whether to approach. The leader was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He felt that if the military knife had been swung at a higher angle, it would have been his neck that was cut. If that happened, even the gods wouldn't be able to save him. Jing Yunzhao, what kind of martial arts did he practice? These brothers usually went to the dojo to practice, so they all had some skills. However, Jing Yunzhao was more like a martial arts expert. Her figure appeared and disappeared like a ghost, and that aura of hers was enough to scare others into retreating step by step. It was simply too strange. Stop fighting. Jing Yunzhao, let's talk things over. The leader wasn't stupid. He immediately covered his wound and said. They had a lot of people, but they couldn't beat Jing Yunzhao. If this continued, it was guaranteed that they would all go to the hospital. What's your nickname? Jing Yunzhao suddenly asked. Black Panther. The opponent's figure was a little weak. The wound on his shoulder was about 10 centimeters long. Although it wasn't bleeding profusely, it was still painful enough to make people grit their teeth. Now that his hand was covered in blood, he hadn't felt this sticky touch for a long time. Black Panther. Jing Yunzhao chuckled. You say you're not fighting. Then what am I? As soon as he finished speaking, Jing Yunzhao lifted her leg and sent him flying, smashing him into the ground. He fainted in an instant. Others saw a fight, to fight, but there were also people who were ready to turn to escape. She would not let any of these people go. She glanced at the broken stones under her feet and kicked them out one by one, aiming at the acupuncture points of the people who were running away. Like shooting stars, they directly smashed them until they could not move. As for the others, Jing Yunzhao didn't let them go. Her body moved, and her posture was handsome and clean. She didn't touch a leaf, and her slender hands were like sharp blades. Her punches and palms made these people dizzy, and they were defeated. Dong dong, sounds kept coming, and in less than 10 minutes, Jing Yunzhao's vision was filled with a quiet and miserable scene. On the bluestone road, there were many men lying on the ground. Jing Yunzhao's face was cold as she dragged the men on the ground together. It was as if she wanted to pile them up into a small mountain. After doing all this, she picked up her phone from the ground and dialed a number. Chapter 317. Ever since Xiao Hongye dropped out of school, she had never contacted Hua Zhe again. However, Hua Zhe was a man of honor. It was more appropriate to leave such a convenient task to him. If she sent these people to the police station today, it could be considered as redemption for these people. After all, it was these people who were suffering now. At most, they would be detained for a few days before being released. It would be of no use at all. What she wanted was that from now on, no one in Huaning would dare to have any ideas about her. Jing Yunzhao had previously used a temporary phone. After she cut off contact with Hua Zhe, she had never used that number again. Now, she didn't want to hide it, so she used her usual private contact number. Looking at the unfamiliar number on the phone, Hua Zhe raised his eyebrows. Perhaps there was business again. However, ever since that Xiao Hongye was taught a lesson, his brothers had never done such an easy job. Thinking about it, he really missed it. Once the call connected, Hua Zhe's lazy voice rang out. Jing Yunzhao also went straight to the point. Hua Zhe, do you know Black Panther? The familiar voice stunned Hua Zhe for a moment. In the next second, he looked at the contact number again with uncertainty. Then, he raised his eyebrows and asked, "It's you?" This little boy had completely cut off contact after transferring all the follow-up funds to him. They also knew the rules and didn't pursue the matter. They originally thought that they wouldn't be able to receive her call in the future. Who knew that in just a few months, they would actually be able to contact her again? "Why are you asking about Black Panther? Did you offend him? Let me give you a word of advice. This Black Panther has over 1,000 brothers. He himself is also a rather fierce person. Many private places in the county are under his protection. Moreover, this person accepts all kinds of orders. He doesn't hesitate to beat up the elderly and children. He's different from Chao Xing. If you meet him, it's better to avoid him," Hua Zhe said very politely. After he finished speaking, he pursed his lips. If it was an ordinary person who asked, he would have to charge some information fee. However, this little brother was different. After Chao Xing was completely crippled, his brothers were now his people. Even Chao Xing's territory had been swallowed by him. Although he couldn't compare to Black Panther now, within Huaning County, he still had some authority. "We've already provoked them. They're in the alley next to Ute Street. How many people?" Before Jing Yunzhao could finish, Hua Zhe asked. "More than 50, Jing Yunzhao said. Think of a way to stall for time. I'll be there soon with my men." Hua Zhe hung up the phone immediately after he finished speaking and quickly called for his brothers. This Black Panther was too immoral. That little boy was probably still an underage brat, yet he dared to do such a thing. If it had been someone else, he wouldn't have bothered. However, he, Hua Zhe, wasn't the kind of person who would forget about righteousness at the sight of profit. Previously, he had taken this little brother's money, but in reality, he hadn't put in much effort. If he didn't step forward to help him mediate the situation, then it would be a waste of his righteous reputation. Jing Yunzhao stared at the phone in a daze. He didn't expect Hua Zhe to not ask any further questions. Jing Yunzhao secretly shook his head. The cold wind was blowing, and it was chilly. In his boredom, he found a spot by the wall and squatted down to wait. Occasionally, there would be a few people who still wanted to struggle, but they were directly suppressed by her violent means. Now, this group of people was in a sorry state. A group of sick and crippled people, groaning non-stop. After 20 minutes, there were a few passers-by who immediately turned their heads and pretended not to have seen anything when they saw them. Who would want to cause trouble in the middle of the night? Hua Zhe's speed was considered extremely fast. He didn't bring too many people, only a dozen or so. This was because it was useless to bring too many people. They were here to chat with Black Panther, not to fight. Otherwise, even if they won now, Black Panther would be able to get back at them tomorrow. When that time came, they would end up in a worse state. Chapter 318. However, along the way, Hua Zhe was already worried. After such a long time, it would have been too late. By the time they arrived, the little brother would have already been beaten up, right? Moreover, since Black Panther had personally led his men, it wouldn't be just a beating. He would definitely cripple some parts of his body as a memento. Hua Zhe sighed faintly. Forget it. If they were late, they would have already sent him to the hospital. That would be the best they could do. After thinking for a while, when Hua Zhe rushed into the alley with his men, he was instantly agitated. He saw a little girl squatting on the ground with her back against the wall, a pair of black eyes looking at him. Opposite her, there were indeed more than 50 people, but they were all injured. Some of them had bruised noses and swollen faces, some of their arms and legs seemed to be crippled, and the rest of them were stained with blood, looking particularly miserable. Among the crowd, Hua Zhe saw a familiar figure. It was the Black Panther that he had to call Big Brother. Even through the darkness of the night, Hua Zhe could see that Black Panther's face was pale and his body was covered in blood. Injured. Hua Zhe was shocked. Could it be that another group of people had just arrived? Jing Yunzhao stood up from the ground and walked towards Hua Zhe. He couldn't help but be surprised. Hua Zhe looked to be only 24 or 25 years old. He was very young. Although he wasn't very handsome, he had some temperament and his facial features could be considered decent. However, these people who mingled in the streets often had an unruly aura. "You're here. I'll give these people to you," Jing Yunzhao said, then said, "Black Panther should have more people under him, right? Hua Zhe was a little confused. After a moment, he said, "You are that, little brother." He remembered that when he called, the other party's voice was young but hoarse and low. It should have been a little boy. How did it become a girl? Moreover, it was such a beautiful girl. Also, what was going on now? How did Black Panther's men become like this? "I am." Jing Yunzhao didn't hesitate. Her attitude made Hua Zhe feel even more unbearable. After a while, he thought about it and asked his brothers to stand guard outside the small alley while he prepared his speech. Then, he carefully worded his words and asked, "Was it really you who called me just now?" Jing Yunzhao nodded. Hua Zhe sighed. All right, he had misheard. After all, they hadn't met, so it was normal for him to make a mistake. He could accept it. "Did you find someone else before you called me?" he asked again. Jing Yunzhao shook her head. "No, there's only you." Then these people. Hua Zhe didn't believe her. "They were all beaten by me." Jing Yunzhao stood perfectly straight without the slightest bit of fear. Hua Zhe suddenly felt that he wasn't talking to a little girl, but more like an adult. Hua Zhe's mouth twitched. "By you? How is that? Look at your skinny arms and legs. How can you beat so many men down with your skinny arms and legs? Little sister, we're familiar with each other. Just tell me the truth." "Oh." As Hua Zhe spoke, he suddenly felt his body fly into the air and land on the ground. He was dizzy and didn't feel good. She attacked without giving him any time to react. Hua Zhe was a little depressed as he struggled to get up. However, he heard Jing Yunzhao say, "Do you believe me now? Even if there were 100 of you, you wouldn't be a match for me." Chapter 319. Jing Yunzhao dusted her hands, as if nothing had happened at all. Hua Zhe felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He swallowed his saliva and turned to look at the others. Suddenly, he felt a chill run down his spine. "How should I address you?" After a moment, Hua Zhe became serious and courteous. He felt that he had seen this person before. She should be Qiao Hongye's pitiful elder sister. "Jing Yunzhao. You didn't call me to ask for help. You wanted me to clean up the mess. Miss Jing, since you asked, I'll answer you honestly. This Black Panther has many brothers. It's useless for you to beat him up today. Sooner or later, he'll bring his men to intercept you." Hua Zhe was also feeling conflicted. Now that Black Panther had been beaten up so badly, he definitely couldn't negotiate with him anymore. Black Panther was a person who held grudges. Regardless of whether he had anything to do with today's incident, Black Panther would put the blame on him. Especially when he couldn't hurt Jing Yunzhao, it was even more so. Therefore, Jing Yunzhao had brought him a huge problem. Unfortunately, the other party was a little girl. That was why he was sullen. "I know. That's why I called you. I want to ask you. Since you've already beaten him up, what's the difference between beating 50 and 100? Jing Yunzhao asked. It's not a matter of 100. It's 1,000. Do you understand? There are a few streets in Huaning County that rely on him to protect them. Hua Zhe frowned. Jing Yunzhao paused for a moment. After a few seconds, she said with a magnanimous expression, "Then I'll wipe them all out." She wasn't trying to show off. This was the result of careful consideration. Black Panther wouldn't let her go. If he could come once, there would be a second and third time. This time, he only brought 50 men. Next time, he might bring all of them. He might even take revenge on her friends for the beating she gave him. This Black Panther wasn't Hua Zhe. Hua Zhe still had some morals, but Black Panther was completely different. Rather than waiting for someone to deal with her, she might as well go all out. After interacting with Hua Zhe for so long, she could tell that he was a decent person. She might as well cooperate with him. Do you know what you're saying? Wipe them all out. I can find 300 to 400 brothers under me, but they won't even be enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Hua Zhe snorted coldly. Jing Yunzhao still said, "Bring your brothers with you. I can guarantee that we won't lose." She didn't understand the so-called rules of the underworld, but the one with the bigger fist definitely had the upper hand. If it was before the summer vacation, she wouldn't have been so confident. But now, 4 or 5 months had passed, which was about a year in the space. These days, she had been practicing martial arts to strengthen her body. What's more, the martial arts she learned were real martial arts, which was completely different from the fake skills of these little gangsters. It was not a problem for her to break out of a bloody path. Hua Zhe suddenly felt that he had met a lunatic today. A 16 or 17-year-old girl who was as thin as a stick actually said that she wanted to take him to fight for territory. Anxious, he lit a cigarette and took a few puffs. Jing Yunzhao, have you ever thought about what would happen to you if you lost? You're sending a lamb to the tiger's den, and you're still so fucking good looking. Aren't you just giving yourself to others to trample on? Don't think that there's only white in the world. You just can't see the dark places. Hua Zhe said angrily. From your attitude just now, it's obvious that you're thinking about the future. Since you've already offended Black Panther, you can either wait for him to take you down or resist. I don't believe that you won't choose to gamble big. After all, Black Panther is already in our hands. Chapter 320. Jing Yunzhao sometimes felt that her brain would suddenly become very bright, such as now. Hua Zhe was dumbfounded by her words. Jing Yunzhao was right. Now that things had come to this, he would definitely go and raid Black Panther's lair, but there were risks involved. You have some ability. I can bring you there, but you have to think carefully. If something happens, I won't be responsible. Hua Zhe said in the end. It was his first time seeing such a stubborn girl. When he sent people to follow Qiao Hongye, he had investigated Jing Yunzhao. She was practically a role model for those students. Her results in every exam were far ahead of the others. He really didn't understand why such a promising person would want to get involved. Moreover, who exactly did she offend to actually get Black Panther to take action? Black Panther wasn't cheap. Jing Yunzhao nodded. As such, Hua Zhe could only agree helplessly. He hurriedly called for some of his brothers to drive over and take Black Panther and his gang away. However, before those brothers arrived, Hua Zhe glanced at her and left for a while. When he came back, he handed her a set of clothes. The clothes were black, big and fat, and there was also a hat. After wearing it, others couldn't see her forehead, and her eyes were also hidden in the shadows. Apart from that, there was also a black mask. With this set of clothes, no one would think that she was a girl when she mixed in with a group of men. Actually, Even if Hua Zhe didn't hand her the clothes, she would have found another set of clothes to cover herself later. "Thank you," Jing Yunzhao said politely. Hua Zhe's lips twitched, and a sense of guilt emerged. What was the meaning of bringing this little girl to fight? Although he was a scoundrel, he was still a normal human. If something happened to this little girl later, there would probably be people calling him a beast. He spat out a mouthful of phlegm and cursed softly. However, he still restrained himself. For some reason, he didn't show it in front of Jing Yunzhao. He felt that it wasn't good to lead such a good student astray. Very quickly, there were people pushing the group of people into a van. But before they left, Jing Yunzhao suddenly thought of something. She went forward and with two kacha sounds, she broke one of Black Panther's arms and one of his legs. Black Panther fainted from the pain. Hua Zhe was still self-reflecting 10 minutes ago. Now that he saw this scene, he was only left with confusion. He really thought that he was crazy just now to feel guilty. This fucker was even more violent than him. Jing Yunzhao didn't want to be a good person who let others bully her without retaliating. Black Panther wanted to break her arms and legs. She was strong enough, so she was able to dodge. But that didn't mean she should ignore his words, eh? Jing Yunzhao acted as if nothing had happened and followed him into the car while wearing the black cloak like windbreaker. Hua Zhe moved quickly. After an hour, he had gathered a few hundred people. He dragged the crippled Black Panther and the rest into their lair. The police couldn't handle matters like this. Even if they wanted to, they wouldn't dare to. Moreover, there were black and white. Some things were known to everyone. They didn't have to be judged by the scale of justice. Therefore, when a group of people blocked this excuse, other than Black Panther's people, no one else interfered. Jing Yunzhao stood beside Hua Zhe. When Hua Zhe arrived, the two sides confronted each other. Hua Zhe threw Black Panther in the middle. The other side saw this and was instantly enraged. This was their boss. How could he be crippled? Chapter 321. The other party's expressions were extremely ugly. More and more people were coming, almost 3 times their number. Hua Zhe, are you tired of living? How dare you touch our boss, one of the other party roared. Hua Zhe's emotions were complicated. He didn't want to move either. In fact, he wasn't the one who did it. But who asked him to be so unlucky? If he didn't retaliate, he would only be a target for Black Panther in the future. Cut the crap. Black Panther's tyrannical ways have long since turned my nose up at him. Since we've already touched your boss today, then let's follow the rules. He was disheartened, but he couldn't show it on his face. The rules were simple. The winner was king, and the loser was a bandit. Conquering territory was all about fighting. After the fight, they would slowly deal with those who weren't loyal. Once the reputation grew, the number of underlings would increase. This was an unchanging way of development. Since the words were out in the open, there was nothing else to talk about. After a while, they all rushed forward. It was the first time Jing Yunzhao had experienced such a hot-blooded scene. She was a little excited. It was no wonder that everyone wanted power. Those without power and ability were just like the soldiers charging at the front, used as cannon fodder. Once those with ability climbed to a certain height, they wouldn't need to do anything at all. The sounds of the wind and the cries of cranes could be heard all around them. Everyone was fighting happily, but Jing Yunzhao's side was slowly attracting more and more firepower. Originally, no one thought much of Jing Yunzhao, who looked extremely skinny and weak, and thought that she would be able to beat them to the ground with a single move. Who knew that with more than 10 people rushing towards her, not only was Jing Yunzhao unharmed, even those people had already fallen to the ground and couldn't get up. This time, quite a number of people could tell that there was something fishy about Jing Yunzhao's body, and they all surrounded her to beat her up. Hua Zhe was also a little dumbfounded. Jing Yunzhao was indeed good at fighting, but with so many people attracted, would she be able to handle it? However, it was soon proven that Hua Zhe's worries were completely unnecessary. On this street, there was no one around, and the sounds of fighting and killing were endless. Among them, there was a black figure who seemed to have the help of the gods. Every punch and kick carried a strong destructive power, catching the opponent off guard. More and more people fell, but the black shadow was still there. It even seemed like the more it fought, the more spirited it became. Initially, Hua Zhe was still worried and had asked a few of his brothers to stay by her side to protect her. However, those brothers had already been separated from each other. On the other hand, Jing Yunzhao could carry hundreds of people on her shoulders at the same time. After being motivated by her ability, his brothers even became a lot braver. She was like a war god that would never fall. Her murderous aura made everyone unable to breathe. Jing Yunzhao didn't know how much time had passed. She only knew that she had to fight whoever came. She wanted to get rid of these people who might go against her in the future. No matter if they were Black Panther or Red Panther, none of them would be left alive. That night, Hua Zhe became famous in the underworld. Even though they were outnumbered, they were able to defeat Black Panther's men and directly replace them. However, the most famous person that night was Jing Yunzhao. No one knew Jing Yunzhao's name. They only knew that a person wearing a black windbreaker and a black mask, whose face could not be seen clearly, had brought Hua Zhe to fame in a single battle. For the sake of convenience, someone had given her a nickname, Black Devil King. Jing Yunzhao didn't care so much. After helping Hua Zhe get rid of Black Panther's men that night, she chatted with him in detail. Previously, Hua Zhe didn't believe in her ability. However, now, he didn't have any doubts at all. He even looked at her with an involuntary admiration. In his mind, that figure simply couldn't be erased. Chapter 322. For someone like Hua Zhe, he worshipped Guan Yu and believed in his fists. Jing Yunzhao's fists were so big that no one could surpass them. Naturally, Hua Zhe could no longer treat her as a little girl or a little girl. Especially with Jing Yunzhao's godlike martial arts, Hua Zhe was so envious that he wanted to kneel and worship her as his master. The way he looked at Jing Yunzhao was a little crazy. Miss Jing. After the deed was done, Hua Zhe treated her to a meal at a nearby bar. He felt a little uncomfortable when he opened his mouth. Normally, with Jing Yunzhao's abilities, calling her big sister was more appropriate. However, she was young and felt that it was inappropriate. He thought for a while and changed his words. Big sister Jing, Jing Yunzhao almost spat out her saliva. You can just call me Jing Yunzhao or Yunzhao. Jing Yunzhao couldn't accept the shocking title just now. Hua Zhe smiled. Yunzhao, your martial arts are not bad. Can you teach me? I can pay for it. Yes, you don't have to pay for it. However, I have a request. Jing Yunzhao agreed very quickly. Hua Zhe didn't expect her to be so reckless and almost didn't react in time. Say it. Hua Zhe didn't have the lazy and casual attitude from before. His entire aura had changed. In the past, he was just a small boss. However, things were different now. In Huaning County, his power was considered to be in the top tier. Use the fastest speed to expand your power. I can help you. We will fight when we need to. I hope you can be a real boss. Jing Yunzhao looked serious. Hua Zhe's mouth twitched. Was she giving him an advantage? What's in it for you? Hua Zhe was still rational. No one would give him such a big pie for no reason. There must be a request, right? I hope that from now on, the gangsters in Huaning County will turn around and leave when they see me. Your subordinates are not allowed to touch the people or businesses that I want to protect, Jing Yunzhao said. What she was doing now was to avoid trouble in the future. The existence of the local tyrant still had some ability. Sometimes, even the police had to be a little apprehensive. Moreover, there were many things that the police couldn't do, but the local tyrant could. One was in the light while the other was in the dark. As the saying goes, it's easy to dodge a spear in the open but hard to defend against a stab in the dark. If she kept offending people in the future, people would also be like Jiang Wenxing, bribing local tyrants to create obstacles for her. Even if her martial arts were powerful, there would still be a day when she would be schemed against. You're helping me because of this? Hua Zhe was in disbelief. This person was so powerful, why would he need to be afraid of these hooligans? Moreover, as long as she reported the name of the Black Devil King, it was guaranteed that those who wanted to deal with her would immediately disperse like birds startled by the twang of a bow. Jing Yunzhao knew this as well, but it was different. What she wanted was to completely and eternally eliminate all future troubles. Jing Yunzhao nodded and said, "You can start preparing for the next few days. When you need me to take action, just let me know. However, Hua Zhe, I'll say the ugly words first. I just want stability. I'm willing to help you now because I feel that you're righteous and I can temporarily trust you. However, if you make a move against me in the future, I'll find a way to beat you back to your original state even if I have to turn the world upside down." As Jing Yunzhao spoke, her murderous intent was so thick that it made Hua Zhe's heart tremble. "Don't worry about that. Lord Guan is on top. Besides, how would I dare?" Hua Zhe didn't doubt his own credibility. After seeing Jing Yunzhao in action, he could guarantee that many people wouldn't want to go against her in this lifetime. That kind of aura was like that of a killing god who had walked out from the Azura hell. She could wipe out all her opponents in a matter of minutes. The title of the Black Devil King was very appropriate for her. Chapter 323. After Jing Yunzhao and Hua Zhe came to an agreement, she didn't want to stay in such a noisy place, so she left through the back door of the bar. However, a night had already passed outside, and the morning sun had just risen. She couldn't sleep the whole night. Jiang Wenxing, the instigator, was the same. He tossed and turned the whole night, thinking about it. He knew how powerful Black Panther was and was afraid that Black Panther would kill someone, but he was also afraid that Black Panther would let Jing Yunzhao go because she was pretty. If Jing Yunzhao used her beauty to charm Black Panther and turned against him, he would be in trouble. However, after thinking about it, he felt that it was impossible. He had given Black Panther $300,000 just to buy Jing Yunzhao's arms and legs. Although Black Panther had mobilized a lot of people, the price was still a lot. If he took the money and didn't do anything, Black Panther's reputation would definitely worsen. Jiang Wenxing woke up early. With 2 dark circles under his eyes, he waited for the call. The tea house opened soon after, but the waiters hadn't arrived yet. Because there hadn't been any customers for a long time, the tea house lacked a sense of humanity and felt a little gloomy and cold. "This Black Panther, why hasn't he replied to my letter?" Jiang Wenxing mumbled to himself, looking irritated. At this moment, Jing Yunzhao walked in. Jiang Wenxing raised his head and stood there motionless, as if he had been struck by lightning. What was going on? Why was Jing Yunzhao fine? Her face was still smooth and perfect, so beautiful that he couldn't take his eyes off her. Her arms and legs were fine. After she came in, she ignored him and sat in the corner like a ghost. Ghost? Jiang Wenxing shuddered. It couldn't be, right? But it was so early in the morning, how could this little ghost have the ability to do that? Jiang Wenxing had done something bad, so he felt guilty. At this moment, he saw that Jing Yunzhao was silent, expressionless, and terrifyingly cold. He felt as if he had been possessed by evil spirits, and his whole body trembled. There was no one else in the tea house. He had opened the windows in the morning to get some fresh air. The wind outside blew on the curtains, making them flutter. Jing Yunzhao had gone to the space before she came and took a bath in the space pond, so her hair was now disheveled. The wind rustled her hair, and her long black hair was perfectly straight, which was why it was so frightening. Jiang Wenxing casually grabbed the stool that was placed at the front desk and walked over. He took a few steps closer and asked nervously, are you a human or a ghost? Jing Yunzhao raised her head to look at him. Jiang Wenxing felt as if he'd fallen into an ice cellar. What sort of eyes were those? Jet black, cold, emotionless, without the slightest fluctuation, empty and terrifying. Her face was pale, and her lips were bright red. In actuality, Jiang Wenxing's current state was completely due to his guilty conscience. Jing Yunzhao's complexion was originally delicate and fair, and even though the place she was sitting at was a little darker than other places, there was still light above her. This light made her look even more ethereal. Also, her gaze when Jiang Wenxing asked if she was a human or a ghost simply made her speechless. Her gaze just now was just to express her sympathy towards this idiot Jiang Wenxing. Besides, her lips were red and her teeth were white. Was it her fault? Jiang Wenxing, are you shocked that I'm back here? Jing Yunzhao said faintly. Jiang Wenxing pointed at her, don't mess around. You asked for it. Get out of my tea house. I'm not afraid of you. Jing Yunzhao frowned slightly. Did Jiang Wenxing think she was dead? He was really an idiot. Jing Yunzhao continued to sit, I'm just here to see how unlucky you are. After saying that, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly, revealing a smile. However, such a gentle and tranquil smile was like a ghost smile to Jiang Wenxing. It gave him goosebumps. Chapter 324. Just as Jiang Wenxing was about to break down, a group of people suddenly barged in. When they saw Jiang Wenxing, they started to beat him up without saying a word. Jing Yunzhao wanted to see if Jiang Wenxing could keep his arms and legs. Just because of some personal vendetta, he actually hired someone to cripple her. Sins committed by the heavens could be forgiven, but sins committed by oneself were the hardest to bear. There weren't many people who came, only 7 of them. Their speed was extremely fast. After entering, 3 of them were in charge of violently beating up Jiang Wenxing, while the remaining 4 directly targeted everything else in the shop and started smashing and smashing. Because they had been instructed by Hua Zhe before they came, they had to end things quickly, so even though they saw Jing Yunzhao, they didn't chase her out. Of course, there was also no one who recognized her as the Black Devil King, who had swept the entire street yesterday. These 7 people were all ruthless people by Hua Zhe's side. They all wore masks and were straightforward in their actions. After pinning Jiang Wenxing to the ground, they grabbed a bench and smashed it at his legs. After a few fierce blows and making sure that they were crippled, they turned and left. Jing Yunzhao pursed her lips, her gaze deep. She felt that her heart was much harder now. Although she had been imprisoned for murder in her previous life, it was in self-defense. But now, the man in front of her was indeed crippled by someone she had hired. She was a doctor and knew what kind of injuries couldn't be healed, such as Jiang Wenxing's. But she didn't regret it. Once those people left, the house became quiet again. Only then did Jing Yunzhao walk from the mess to Jiang Wenxing's side. Looking at him with pity, she asked, Uncle Jiang, does it hurt? Jiang Wenxing bared his teeth and howled, his gaze pleading. If you had known that it would be like this to have your arms and legs crippled, I don't know if you would have still chosen to hire someone to harm me. Jing Yunzhao's so-called pity disappeared and was replaced by his usual coldness. It's not because of me that your tea house fell into such a situation. It's because of your poor management that you mistook the Gelsemium elegans. Speaking of which, if I didn't save those 3 people at that time, you would have to compensate them with more than 600,000 yuan. Not only did you not thank me, you even went to Black Panther. Jing Yunzhao chuckled, oh right, Black Panther is in a worse state than you. You don't have to blame him for not completing your mission. He did his best. After that, Jing Yunzhao glanced at him and called an ambulance for him before he left. In any case, there was no way he could recover his limbs. He could only be a cripple in the future. When Jing Yunzhao left the first tea house, he reached out and gripped the jade gourd token around his neck. If it wasn't for it, she wouldn't know medicine or martial arts. If she offended Jiang Wenqing and Black Panther in that situation, she would definitely live a life worse than her previous life. More than an hour later, the waiters in Yuling Tea Pavilion started whispering among themselves. Have you heard? Mr. Jiang was beaten up badly by someone. My friend at the hospital said that one of his arms and legs were crippled. Their tea house is in a mess now. Everything is broken. I heard that Miss Jing passed by their door to take a look and saw Jiang Wenqing being beaten up. She was kind enough to call an ambulance. Otherwise, who knows how long he would have to lie on the ground. Isn't that right? Didn't the police come to ask just now? Miss Jing said that she saw him being beaten up, but she was scared out of her wits. She only knew that the other party was wearing masks and hats, so she didn't know who did it. Jing Yunzhao sat upstairs. When he heard these words, he only calmly sipped his tea. Chapter 325. Chu Rong felt that Jing Yunzhao's attitude was a little strange. Logically speaking, if a normal person heard this kind of gossip, they would be curious, but Jing Yunzhao was very calm, as if the matter had nothing to do with her, not even the slightest bit of curiosity. Moreover, when Jiang Wenqing was beaten up, she was the only witness. As an insider, it was unbelievable that she could be so calm. Boss, did you really not see what the other party looked like? Chu Rong asked suspiciously. There were too many things that she suspected. Jing Yunzhao rarely came except for the first 2 days when the shop opened. However, he arrived so early today and even happened to pass by Jiang Wenqing's shop. He even happened to see Jiang Wenqing being beaten up. Everything seemed like a drama that had been arranged long ago. Jing Yunzhao put down his teacup and glanced at Chu Rong. I didn't see what they looked like, but I know why Jiang Wenqing was beaten up. Chu Rong's heart skipped a beat as she heard Jing Yunzhao continue. He spent money to hire a hitman and found Black Panther in the underworld. He wanted to buy an arm and a leg from him. In the end, Black Panther brought over 50 people but still lost miserably. Last night, Black Panther's den was raided. It's normal for the other party to take revenge on him. After Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, Chu Rong was surprised again. This Jiang Wenqing was really bold. He actually found someone from the underworld. They were small businessmen, so they should avoid those hoodlums. Jiang Wenqing, on the other hand, actually dared to approach them. He lost and was being punished. However, even if Black Panther really killed the person he wanted to beat up, Jiang Wenqing might not be able to live peacefully in the future. If Black Panther was a righteous person, then this relationship could be cut off easily. However, if he was not, and Black Panther had something on him, then he would be doomed eternally. Moreover, people were sometimes greedy. He broke the rules and used this method to deal with the problem. The next time he met someone he was not satisfied with, he might use this method again. How could one not wet their shoes if they walked by the river? Jiang Wenxing was destined to not have a good ending when he decided to find Black Panther. Chu Rong was silent for a while. He deserved it. However, she did not know who was the victim of this scheme. Jing Yunzhao was so clear about the ins and outs of the matter. Could it be related to her? Chu Rong's heart skipped a beat. She was shocked by her own thoughts. She looked up at Jing Yunzhao and laughed at herself. Even though Jing Yunzhao had the ability to open a company and a shop, it was all because she found the right people to help her. However, things in the underworld were different. Once you got involved, it would be impossible if you didn't have the ability. Furthermore, this wasn't a matter of moving one's mouth. It was a method to beat people up. Chu Rong was too embarrassed to ask further. Meanwhile, the #1 tea house across the street was completely ruined. After Jiang Wenxing was admitted to the hospital, he naturally called the police, but when the police asked, he began to hesitate again. He couldn't possibly say that he had bribed Black Panther to beat him up, could he? Now that he had no evidence, and he couldn't contact Black Panther, if Black Panther went back on his word, he would be the one to suffer. Therefore, Jiang Wenxing could only insist that he push the blame to Jing Yunzhao. It's her. She's from Yuling Tea Pavilion. They couldn't bear to see me doing well, so they found someone to destroy my shop. You'll know if you investigate, it must be related to her. Jiang Wenxing said anxiously on the hospital bed. He was about to go crazy. He was middle-aged and should have a successful career and a happy family, but he had become a cripple. Chapter 326. When Jiang Wenxing thought of the scene when he saw Jing Yunzhao in the morning, he still felt his scalp go numb. However, when he heard that Jing Yunzhao was still alive and well, he knew that he was done for. Other than her, no one else would do anything to him. That was why he was so sure. However, no one would believe him even if he said that. It was true that Jing Yunzhao was related to Yuling Tea Pavilion, but no one would associate her with the position of the owner. Moreover, even if they knew that Yuling Tea Pavilion was hers, they wouldn't think that a little girl who hadn't even reached adulthood would have the guts to find someone to smash the #1 Tea Pavilion and even ruin Jiang Wenxing. Moreover, although they were competitors on the same street, Jiang Wenxing's Tea Pavilion could not be compared to Yuling Tea Pavilion. On the first day of Yuling Tea Pavilion's opening, the people who came to congratulate them were either rich or noble. Because it was bustling with activity, it attracted many customers. In the following days, business got better and better. Those who went to Yuling Tea Pavilion all said that the quality of tea was very high. Whether it was service, refreshments or other aspects, it could definitely beat other tea pavilions. Even the tea house in Ning City could not compare to it. In other words, the first tea pavilion could not compare to Yuling Tea Pavilion. Since that was the case, how could Jing Yunzhao find trouble with Jiang Wenxing? She could just use business to crush him. Find people from the underworld. Why bother? Jiang Wenxing's words were questioned and even completely ruled out. He was so anxious that he was about to go crazy. With one of his arms and legs broken, his quality of life would naturally be greatly reduced. Moreover, when he was hospitalized, he spent a lot of money. Adding on the money he gave to Black Panther, it caused his family's savings to be almost gone. Since the tea house could not continue operating, he could only choose to sell it. However, Jiang Wenxing did not pay the balance of the tea house, so the price was not as high as he expected. Mother Jiang also had a clothing store. Business was not bad, but because of Black Panther's matter, it was getting worse and worse. This time, it was not Jing Yunzhao who did it, but Black Panther's brothers. Although Hua Zhe had taken in Black Panther's men, he had kicked out those who had been used by Black Panther in the past. Even though it was Hua Zhe who had raided Black Panther's lair, Black Panther had been crippled in an inexplicable manner. Those who had been with Black Panther when he was killed all kept their mouths shut. Their faces were filled with shock, as if they had encountered something terrifying. This made the outsiders suspicious. Black Panther's injuries were basically the same as Jiang Wenxing's, so those people had no choice but to turn their attention to Jiang Wenxing to vent their anger. Therefore, within 3 days, Mother Jiang's clothing store was also smashed, and all the branded clothes inside were completely destroyed. The salespeople didn't dare to stay any longer. Not only that, but there were also people who went to the Jiang family and threatened them again. Those people were used to doing this kind of thing and could take advantage of the loopholes. Even if Jiang Wenxing called the police, it was useless. Jiang Wenxing had no choice but to spend money to solve the problem. The other party had a huge appetite and even blamed him for Black Panther being crippled. How could the money he wanted be small? In the blink of an eye, the family's wealth was almost all gone. Because of this, Jiang Xia's days were delayed and he did not have the money to go to a good school. The family was exhausted, but the real nightmare was still lurking in reality. Jiang Wenxing needed to be taken care of, and Mother Jiang's clothing store was destroyed. It would not be able to reopen for a while, so she could only stay at home with her husband. However, both of them had resentment in their hearts. If they were not hitting, they were scolding, and they were extremely annoyed. Chapter 327. In the end, Jiang Wenxing and his wife had no choice but to divorce. Jiang Xia was affected by them, and not long after, his grades took a nosedive. He went to that third-rate school only because he could save a lot of money and the school would give him preferential treatment. But when he really went there, the teachers treated him like a treasure at first. But as time passed, they realized that his grades were getting worse and worse, and their attitude towards him was no different from how they treated others. Jiang Xia was arrogant and really looked down on the students in those third-rate schools. So when he went there, his attitude towards his classmates was not as polite as when he was in number 1 middle school. In the past, everyone was apprehensive of him because he was liked by the teachers, so they did not dare to provoke him. But it was different later on. There were some students in that school who liked to fight, and Jiang Xia immediately became their target. Life was really not easy. Every day when he went to and from school, he would be stopped by some students. Usually, he would be ordered around in school. The environment was completely different from before. As time passed, Jiang Xia's sense of superiority had long been worn away. He was usually quiet and unlikable. Jiang Xia was annoyed, but Jiang Wenxing's intestines were green with regret. Why did he have to find Black Panther? Unfortunately, there was nothing he could do now. The rest of his life was still long. While Jiang Wenxing was suffering, Jing Yunzhao followed Hua Zhe every night for a long period of time and swept the streets of Huaning Street. Hua Zhe did things very generously and his methods were very clear. From small to large, he swallowed up one by one and slowly digested them. With Jing Yunzhao's name as the Black Devil King, the people under him did not dare to act recklessly. Moreover, those small hooligans had always followed the person with the bigger fist. So, everything went smoothly. Even Xiao Haiqing had heard of the turbulent situation. She had been talking about the Black Devil King non-stop all day long. Yun Zhao, you don't know, but this Black Devil King is simply a war god. Do you know what a war god is? He is invincible and invincible. There was a person called Viper in this underworld who did not want to submit to him. He and Hua Zhe led a group of brothers to provoke him for many days. They went every day and beat Viper's brothers until they gave up and handed over their territory with both hands. I'm dying of laughter. Xiao Haiqing's eyes seemed to be filled with red hearts. She grabbed her arm and continued, I followed him last night to take a look, but I was a little far away. I only knew that he was wearing a black windbreaker and his face was covered, so I couldn't see clearly. But his hands were very beautiful. I could tell that he should be very young. Xiao Haiqing, no matter how powerful that Black Devil King is, he's still just a hoodlum. Don't be infatuated with him. Gong Jinchen reminded her. You know nothing. Xiao Haiqing immediately rolled her eyes. Only Hua Zhe knows about the Black Devil King's identity. He doesn't usually show his face, so he's completely different from normal hooligans. Moreover, with that kind of skill, how can he just be a hooligan in the future? Anyway, I don't believe it. Hearing Xiao Haiqing's words, Suchu was also fascinated. Gong Jinchen saw Suchu's expression of worship and immediately interrupted, you can chase after your own idols. Don't lead Chu Chu astray. Yes, our Chu Chu is a cute little white rabbit. If she meets the Black Devil King, I guarantee that she'll be swallowed whole. Xiao Haiqing smiled and said. Jing Yunzhao, the person involved, was at a loss for words. Could she tell Xiao Haiqing that she was the legendary Black Devil King? Obviously, she couldn't. The nature of this matter was different from before. If they found out, it would be inevitable for them to be alarmed. But then again, Yunzhao, didn't you encounter any problems before this? When I was asking about the Black Devil King, I heard a piece of news. Black Panther received money from someone called Jiang Wenxing to find trouble with you. But in the end, he was dealt with by Hua Zhe's men. Chapter 328. Xiao Haiqing was also a little confused. The information she had found was all over the place, and she couldn't tell which one was true. However, since it involved Jing Yunzhao, she wouldn't feel at ease if she didn't ask more. I did encounter some danger, but you know that I know some martial arts, so I didn't lose out. After I beat those people up, I called Hua Zhe. Hua Zhe was quite loyal. Perhaps he was worried that he would be targeted by Black Panther, so he made the first move. Jing Yunzhao didn't lie about this. Xiao Haiqing's eyes widened when she heard this. So you're saying that you were the fuse? If Jing Yunzhao had looked for Hua Zhe at that time, Hua Zhe might not have made things difficult for Black Panther. Later on, he might not have joined forces with Black Devil King to fight for territory and cause a bloodbath. Xiao Haiqing suddenly felt that the truth was very frightening. However, she was afraid that Jing Yunzhao would think too much, so she immediately said, Hua Zhe is still a good person. Jing Yunzhao nodded. Gong Jinchen and Suchu still hadn't recovered from the shock. They didn't expect Jing Yunzhao to encounter such a big matter. However, seeing Jing Yunzhao's nonchalant expression, they didn't say much. They were afraid that Jing Yunzhao would be scared if they mentioned the previous incident. After everything in the tea house was on track, Jing Yunzhao remembered the medical letter that old Master Su had given her. The date on the medical letter was approaching. Jing Yunzhao began to think about how to apply for leave from Teacher Qi. The location was in Serene City, and it would last for about a week. She was still a student, so it was impossible for her to leave school as she wished. However, when she thought that Teacher Qi would ask a few more questions, the teacher only glanced at her and said, It's good to go home and rest for a few days to relax. Don't be too tense. Otherwise, it will be even more difficult when you reach the 3rd year of high school. Jing Yunzhao nodded in surprise. Teacher Qi sighed faintly. If it were any other student, he would want them to work 24 hours a day. However, Jing Yunzhao was different. He had never seen her play like an ordinary child. Usually, when her friends were chatting around her, she would not forget to read a book in her hand or write or draw. It was as if she was possessed. However, according to his understanding, this child had been like this since the 1st year of high school. He used all the time he could, and it was not an exaggeration to say that he neglected sleep and food. If this continued, his grades would be high and stable, but his body would not be able to take it, right? Therefore, when Jing Yunzhao asked for leave, he immediately agreed. When everything was ready, Jing Yunzhao informed his friends, Elder Gon, Elder Su, and the others before setting off for Serene City. This was Jing Yunzhao's second time in Serene City, so he was not very familiar with the roads in Serene City. Other than Elder Tang and the company, there was nothing else in Ning City that she wanted to visit. Therefore, she didn't wander around. Instead, she took a taxi to the designated location on the letter. The letter clearly stated that the location was in the suburbs of Serene City. A few hours after arriving in Serene City, Jing Yunzhao took a taxi to the destination. When she got out of the car, she saw that the surroundings were quiet. On both sides of the road, there were endless medicinal fields. There were no shops nearby, and there weren't many residents. As the sky gradually darkened, it looked very desolate and gloomy. Other than her, there was no one else in the surroundings. Jing Yunzhao carefully looked around before following a small road to a big house in the distance. The medicinal fragrance in this place was very strong, and the scenery was very good. Because the journey was a little far, when Jing Yunzhao entered the big house, her body was already wet from the fields. She carried a big box and looked travel-worn. Chapter 329. She knocked on the door, and after a long time, someone appeared in front of Jing Yunzhao with the letter on the ground. When the other party saw it, he was shocked and quickly invited her in. Inside the house, it was a completely different world. From the outside, it looked like a relatively large house with a lot of trees planted around it, so there was nothing special about it. But inside, it was very amazing. Inside the high wall, there was a front and back courtyard, and she was led to the back courtyard. These rooms were very quiet and elegant, but each room seemed to be arranged according to the letter in each person's hand. Wait, did you make a mistake? Why did you bring her to that room? Jing Yunzhao had just walked to the door of the room, and before she pushed the door open, someone took the initiative to ask. Along the way, there were a lot of gazes, especially when she entered the back courtyard. There were a lot of people who looked surprised. She was not stupid, presumably the people who lived in the front and back courtyard were different. Her letter is painted with licorice, so it is indeed this room. The person who led the way said with a face of certainty. Behind, the person who spoke just now did not believe it, and went forward to take the letter and looked it over, then nodded suspiciously. Since it is not wrong, then go in. Jing Yunzhao was not clear about the situation, so she did not care and stepped into the room. Closing the door, she looked back, and seemed to understand the reason why others were puzzled. When she passed by the other rooms, she could see the exquisiteness inside, but those rooms were far inferior to the one in front of her. There was a fresh smell in the room, and the area was 3 or 4 times the size of the other rooms. There was a special greenhouse, a warehouse, a bathroom, a kitchen, and a large living room. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a luxurious presidential room. This letter was given to her by Su Lao, so this room should also be prepared for Su Lao. After a while, someone came to deliver food, and the food was even more amazing. However, while Jing Yunzhao was enjoying this kind of preferential treatment, some people whispered, "Isn't that licorice room prepared for Su Lao? Why did a little girl come? When did Su Lao come? This old man must have been in Ning City for quite some time, right? Every year, we send people to deliver the invitation, but Elder Su never pays any attention to it. This year, it's quite rare for him to give the invitation to someone else to come on his behalf," someone said. However, someone scoffed. "Even if Elder Su doesn't come, he shouldn't treat our medicine association as an entertainment venue. What was the matter with letting a little girl do it?" Even if he is his disciple, he is still so young. Has he finished his apprenticeship? Jing Yunzhao's hearing was amazing, and he wanted to know more about the situation, so he remembered all the words of these people outside. Su Lao didn't tell her the exact situation of the medicine fair. He only told her to bring a few good medicinal herbs and finished medicines. In fact, she didn't know anything about the rules here. Wherever there were people, there would be gossip. Regardless of age or occasion, Jing Yunzhao was not stupid enough to go out and show off. He stayed in his room for the whole night. It wasn't until the next morning that someone sent her the instructions for the medicine fair. Rather than a medicine fair, it was more like a competition. The people here were all master pharmacists, and they were very familiar with all kinds of medicinal herbs in the world. They came from all over the world, and they were all famous. Their purpose for coming here was very simple. To put it nicely, it was to make friends with medicine. To put it bluntly, it was to compete for fame. Chapter 330. A master pharmacist must have a deep foundation in concocting medicinal herbs and clearly know the medicinal properties of each herb. Even if he didn't have medical skills, he needed to know what kind of state each herb should be in when it was used in different prescriptions. Those who performed well in this medicine fair would definitely have a reputation in the future, but the most important thing was to obtain the rights to some medicinal fields and profit from it. As for the process of the competition, it was just as simple. It was nothing more than testing the medicinal properties of some herbs and the concocting methods and reasons. It seemed easy, but in fact, an outsider might not even understand. This morning was the official first day of the medicine fair. Although everyone's purpose was clear, the medicine fair was mainly for communication. The so-called competition would wait until the end. Jing Yunzhao changed into a clean set of clothes and went out. However, as soon as she opened the door, she saw two boys around her age standing there. She was stunned. As soon as they saw her, they immediately said, "Hello, I'm Cui Jun. This is Tong Yen. We heard that you're also here to visit the medicine fair, so we came to accompany you." Jing Yunzhao closed the door and glanced at the two of them. The two of them were about 17 or 18 years old. The one who spoke was fairer and could be considered handsome. The boy named Tong Yen standing beside him was relatively quieter. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes, and his skin was slightly darker. Although she didn't know who exactly came to the medicine fair, she knew that her purpose wasn't to visit. The two of them were childish and didn't have a strong medicinal smell, especially Cui Jun. He was a little impetuous when he spoke and the color of his fingers was normal. He definitely wasn't a pharmacist. Jing Yunzhao leaned to one side. "Sorry, I can do it alone." She wasn't cold, but she understood. Yesterday, those people were talking about her behind her back, and this morning, there were people waiting at the door. She didn't believe that it wasn't arranged. These two boys were most likely sent by someone to get information from her. Their motives weren't pure, so she refused to interact with them. The other party obviously didn't expect Jing Yunzhao to reject him so straightforwardly. He couldn't accept it for a moment. "Is this your first time here? You probably don't know the rules here. Someone sent this over this morning." Jing Yunzhao raised her hand and waved the medicine fair manual in her hand. Cui Jun was speechless. On the other hand, Tong Yen turned around and left without another word. When Cui Jun saw this, he turned around and glared at her with disgust. Sure enough, she had a child's temperament. She would be polite when she needed to be flattered, but when she was rejected, she would revert to her true nature. She definitely had to stay away from this kind of person. Now that her ears were clear, Jing Yunzhao took a stroll around the courtyard. The courtyard was huge, and there were over 100 rooms at the back, not to mention the front yard. According to the arrangement, what they had to do a few days ago was to observe the surrounding medicinal fields and understand the growing environment of some medicinal herbs. Of course, many people already knew about these things, and now they were just taking it as a distraction. Jing Yunzhao walked around the yard for a bit before following the others out of the door. However, before he reached the herbal field, a few people caught up with him. One of them pointed at Jing Yunzhao and shouted, "You! Stop!" Jing Yunzhao turned around, and the other party quickly approached and said, "We've been chasing you all the way, can't you hear us?" Why was he still moving forward? "Did you call me?" "I'm sorry, I didn't hear you call my name. I thought someone was calling me for fun." Jing Yunzhao chuckled and looked amiable. Chapter 331. When she went out, she did hear some movement behind her, but she could tell that the other party's attitude wasn't very good, so she didn't turn around in time. There were about 4 or 5 people, and they didn't look old. 3 of them walked behind, and 2 of them rushed in front. One of them was shouting at her. The one who spoke was a girl, and the one standing next to her was the boy named Shui Jun who was standing at her door. "Why are you so unreasonable? Is there anyone else here besides you?" "Of course I'm calling you," the girl said with an unhappy face. Jing Yunzhao raised her eyebrows. "Then why are you looking for me?" The other party was stunned, and a flash of uneasiness flashed across her face, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. The next second, she said angrily, "I heard that the letter you're holding has a picture of licorice on it, and you're staying in the best room in this courtyard, right?" "It's licorice, but as for whether it's the best room, I'm not sure." Jing Yunzhao told the truth. As soon as she said this, the other party immediately looked at her suspiciously. "How can you not know? That room was prepared for an old senior, and even my dad can't live in it." "You're not that old senior, so how can you go in? What's your relationship with Elder Su?" Jing Yunzhao smiled. "I'll have to trouble you to get your facts straight. I'm only here to bring the letter. As for where they arrange for me to stay, that's their business. I can't control it, and neither can you, am I right?" The other party's face turned red, and she curled her lips. She hated such an arrogant girl. She was just staying in an old senior's room, so what was there to be proud of? Jing Yunzhao also knew that she was attracting jealousy, but she couldn't help it. She had Elder Su's letter, and she couldn't live in another room just to make others feel better. That would indeed save her trouble, but it would make her more cowardly. If Elder Su found out, not only would he scold her for being stupid, but he would also say that she was useless. She had been with the old man for so long, and she knew his temper. She treated the old man like a teacher, so she would never do anything that would make him lose face. TSK, if you can't control it, then so be it. What's the big deal? The other party rolled her eyes. Who knows if you picked up this letter or not? This isn't a place for you to eat and drink. It won't be long before you lose face. By the way, Shui Jun went to find you this morning out of kindness. He's not interested in you." After she finished speaking, she walked past Jing Yunzhao. TSSSSSSSSS. Not only this SSSSSSST, this wasn't the city, it was solid yellow soil. Her fall instantly dirted her clothes. Chui's SSS. The other 3 people behind him also glanced at her with concern, but they weren't as enthusiastic as Shui Jun. Clearly, the 3 of them knew that Miss Shan Shan had asked for it. "Don't touch me, I can get up on my own." Ji Shanshan pouted, her face flushed red. She knew she had embarrassed herself. Jing Yunzhao glanced at her and treated her as air. He turned around and continued walking. After a few steps, she suddenly felt a sense of danger behind her. She subconsciously dodged. When she looked again, she only saw a fist-sized rock pass by her and hit a man in front of her. Chapter 332. Fortunately, the stone had been thrown far away when it landed on the man, so it only hit his leg. If it was just normal insults, Jing Yunzhao could just treat it as jealousy and ignore it. But now, she actually used such a big rock to throw at her. This was inexcusable. Are you done? Miss Shanshan, I have no grudge against you. Are you trying to kill me? Jing Yunzhao shouted coldly. The girl was shocked, but when she realized that it hadn't caused any big trouble, she said, "How am I trying to kill you? I didn't touch you." Anne. Ji Shanshan took a few steps forward proudly and ran to the man who had been hit. She hugged his arm, raised her head, and said to Jing Yunzhao, "He's my brother. Wasn't it obvious?" Although Ji Shanshan had attacked her, not only had she not hit her, but she had also accidentally attacked her brother. The victim and the perpetrator were from the same family. If they didn't pursue the matter, then she, who had brushed past them, had no right to speak up. Jing Yunzhao was angry at first, but then she smiled. "So you think you didn't hit me? Even if you aimed at me, it's still not wrong. You're not hurt. You want me to apologize to you?" "Impossible," Ji Shanshan said again. From the beginning to the end, the boy named Shui Jun had been standing beside her. He didn't say a word, and his eyes were full of arrogance. Jing Yunzhao was a little confused. It was just a room issue, was there a need to make them so angry? At this time, the other three couldn't stand it anymore. Ji Shanshan, if she hadn't dodged just now, you would have hit her head. You'd better apologize, we just met. There's no need to be so fierce, but when Ji Shanshan heard that, she turned her head away. No. 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 I didn't do anything wrong. Jing Yunzhao had always believed that there was a reason for a person's hatred. No one would target someone for no reason. And the reason varied according to the severity of the matter. For example, she didn't think the incident in the room was serious, but Ji Shanshan's reaction was obviously a little too much. However, she wasn't someone who was easy to bully. If she tolerated it and didn't fuss over it, it might turn out that she was easy to bully. Looking down at the messy stones on the ground, Jing Yunzhao took a few in her hand. "Since you don't think it's important, then you can try." Jing Yunzhao's voice was cold. After she finished speaking, she took a rock and threw it at her, seemingly aiming for her head. When Ji Shanshan saw this, she was scared silly. The man beside her hurriedly pulled her aside. The stone fell and made a hole in the ground. That voice made Ji Shanshan's scalp tingle. The man next to her said, "Aren't you going too far?" "Am I?" She said it herself. "I didn't touch her, so it's not wrong." After saying that, Jing Yunzhao threw another stone at her. Ji Shanshan only felt that each stone was aimed at her head. It was getting closer and closer. Just when she thought her head was going to be smashed, it suddenly flew past her ear. She could even hear the sound of the wind in her ear. "Stop!" The man was anxious. He quickly protected Ji Shanshan in his arms. "She was wrong. I apologize on her behalf. But you've already benefited. Don't be calculative with her." Jing Yunzhao paused. Benefit? When did she benefit? Chapter 333. She had only stayed in this place for one night. During that time, she had not seen anyone. She had only received a prescription in the morning. How could she have benefited from it? Could it be that being chased and beaten up by someone was a benefit? Jing Yunzhao was confused. Tell me clearly. Why is she targeting me? A hint of mockery flashed in the man's eyes. We're all smart people. Since you're here, it's impossible that you don't know. Since you took the invitation and stayed in the elder's room, everyone will naturally give you a gift later. You're here on behalf of the elder, so you're an elder. However, you're not the elder, so everyone will have to give you some leeway in the competition later. To put it bluntly, you're the predetermined champion. Once you get the reputation and the gift, you can leave without a fight. Everyone will have to serve you and even think of ways to build a relationship with you. The man enunciated each word clearly. After he finished speaking, Jing Yunzhao's face darkened. She turned to look at the other three people behind her, only to find that their expressions were not too good either. Why do you have to give me a gift and give me leeway? Jing Yunzhao said with a cold face. Because you suspect that I'm Elder Su's disciple, so you have to give him face. Since you already know, why ask? We'll all keep our thoughts to ourselves. However, Shanshan is young and hot-headed. This morning, Cui Jun went to your room and waited for an hour. Of course, she's angry, the man said again. Jing Yunzhao was a little angry. She thought that she had the strength. Although the invitation was given by Elder Su, she was prepared to win with her strength. She did not expect this at all. At this moment, she was in a daze, but in the next second, she calmed down. Elder Su knew the situation better than she did. Since he still asked her to come, he must have his reasons. There are many ways to give Elder Su face. It's fine if you're polite, but if you want to give me a gift or go easy on me, that's your own choice. I didn't ask for anything from you. If you shamelessly give it to me, then it's your own style that's wrong. Moreover, this Cui Jun is standing in front of my room because he has bad intentions. What does it have to do with me? You're wrong to think that Elder Su is a calculative person. Jing Yunzhao shouted coldly. He suddenly felt that he was too arrogant. With that said, she suddenly understood why Elder Su didn't come. Old man Su was obsessed with making medicine. He was sincere and respectful towards medicinal herbs. However, these people thought that since he was a senior, they should curry favor with him, avoid him, or even build a relationship with him. In reality, this was an insult to old man Su. They were insulting his character and his passion in concocting medicinal herbs. Elder Su looked cold on the outside, but his heart was not cold. It was just that he was used to being paranoid and was not used to getting along with others. She had been with him for so long, so she deeply knew that he hoped that the younger generation could have greater achievements in the pharmaceutical industry than anyone else. Take her as an example. Occasionally, when she was concocting medicinal herbs, she would find some problems with Elder Su's concoction. Every time this happened, not only would Elder Su not be angry, he would even praise her. For someone like him, using such dishonest methods to curry favor with him was simply hitting the horse's leg. After Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, the siblings and Cui Jun's faces turned ugly. Weren't they afraid that the senior would blame them? Now that this girl said it, it was their fault. Chapter 334. Ji Shanshan and her brother's faces turned ugly from anger. Cui Jun, who was called out by Jing Yunzhao for harboring evil intentions, had a stomach full of anger. Today, he didn't want to curry favor with this unknown girl, but his father strictly ordered him to give it a try. This was because Elder Su's identity was not simple, and he was not an ordinary master pharmacist. He had participated in a medicine gathering before, and after that, he had never appeared again. All this time, no one had come with an old senior's letter. This was the first time. It was impossible for everyone not to think about it. This girl might be Su Lao's heir or even his last disciple. However, they didn't know what kind of relationship she had with Su Lao. Therefore, most people wanted to find out more. The adults couldn't lower themselves to come here, so they could only send a young man to inquire about it. On the other hand, Cui Jun had always been arrogant. It was one thing for his father to allow him to interact with a girl he didn't know, but the other party just had to ignore him. Instantly, anger rose in his heart. He felt that Jing Yun Zhao's eyes were too high and she looked down on him. On the other hand, because of Cui Jun, Ji Shan didn't have a good impression of Jing Yun Zhao. Now that Jing Yun Zhao knew her current situation, she could understand Ji Shan's attitude towards her. She found it funny. Even if she wanted to please her, shouldn't she at least show some sincerity? Now, she came to make trouble for her. It was the first time she saw such sincerity. Brother, she might have stolen the letter. Didn't our father say that Su Lao had only attended one medicine conference in the capital? How could he give the letter to someone else? I think this girl is a fake. Ji Shan said angrily. She dared to say that Cui Jun had evil intentions. If this girl hadn't come out of nowhere to seduce Cui Jun with Su Lao's name, he wouldn't have taken the initiative. Ji Shan, stop it. Cui Jun didn't say anything. Why are you meddling? The man was angry. Cui Jun was using his sister as a target. Cui Jun was afraid that he had fallen behind in front of this girl, but he was unwilling to accept it. Therefore, he asked his sister to make trouble for him. Damn it! Ji Shan felt wronged after being yelled at. How am I meddling in this? I don't believe that she's Elder Su's disciple. Besides, what's so great about Elder Su? Isn't he just a little older? Why should we curry favor with him? Jing Yun Zhao smiled. That's right, why? It was because he didn't have enough, but he still wanted more. Indeed, I'm not Elder Su's disciple, Jing Yun Zhao said, so, in the following matches, let's see who's better. I can also guarantee that regardless of whether I win or lose, Elder Su will not interfere. Everyone present was stunned, but then they heard Jing Yun Zhao say, as for the gifts, I won't stop you if you want to give them to me. But let me make it clear first. Even if I get the gifts, I won't mention it in front of Elder Su. Also, seduction won't work on me. I'm here to compete, not to pick a man. Even if I want to pick, I won't pick trash like this. She had never seen such a clumsy honey trap. Was that even a honey trap? He was conceited, selfish, and full of schemes. She wouldn't want such a man even if he was given to her. Only a simple-minded person like Ji Shan would treat such a man as a treasure. Cui Jun's face turned ugly. Ji Shan was still hooting. Who are you calling trash? I think you're the one who's calling trash. What's so great about you? You're just a little lucky. If you have the ability, you can do what you say. You're saying nice things now, but who knows what you'll do behind Elder Su's back. Jing Yun Zhao used to hate Ji Shan quite a bit, but now, she was treating her with a bit of special respect. He knew that she was related to Elder Su, but he still dared to offend her. Although he was a little stupid, at least he didn't curry favor with the rich and powerful. What a pity. Chapter 335. Jing Yun Zhao casually tossed the remaining stones in his hand behind him and dusted his hands. He glanced at Ji Shan and coldly said, I've already made my stance clear. If you lose in the end, then it's your own fault. But if you still push the blame on me, then it's only natural for me to ridicule you. After that, Jing Yun Zhao lifted his foot and left. Ji Shan was furious, and the others looked at each other. Did she really say that? After a while, they returned to the courtyard, surrounded by middle-aged men. Yes, I think this girl has some backbone. She doesn't need us to go easy on her, right? Ji Shan's brother said with some uncertainty. Ji Shan snorted, go easy on her. In any case, I've already offended her. It's pointless to go easy on her. Didn't you see how proud she was? She acted as if she was the best in the world. Isn't she just riding on Su Lao's coattails? That Su Lao is really too much. If he doesn't want to come, then just don't come. Why did he give the invitation to someone else? Ji Shanshan's words infuriated the father and son of the Ji family. Cui Jun was too arrogant. If he didn't want to go and curry favor with that girl, then so be it. But after he did, he urged Ji Shanshan to provoke her. Even if he wanted to test her temper, he shouldn't have used such a method. Now, that girl would inevitably bear a grudge against all of them. Forget it. Since she said so, then we'll do as she said. No gifts. As for the competition, we'll do our best. If she doesn't have much strength, then we'll make her lose in a way that won't embarrass Su Lao. One of them said. As soon as he said that, everyone around him nodded in agreement. At this time, Jing Yunzhao had been wandering around the medicine field for a long time. The outside world was different from the space. The soil, air, and even the weather could affect the quality of the herbs. However, she would definitely build her own medicine base in the future. She couldn't rely on the space for everything, so she observed carefully. After wandering outside for a day, Jing Yunzhao returned to her residence. Many people were near the courtyard's warehouse. Jing Yunzhao went over to take a look and saw that there were all kinds of things outside, such as rice, vinegar, wheat bran, and so on. Upon seeing her, the crowd parted to make a path for her. Most of the people here were relatively young. Some of them were inspecting the quality of the things on the ground. The few people who had appeared in front of her in the morning were discussing seriously. These are all auxiliary materials used to concoct medicinal herbs. Most of the medicinal herbs need to be stir-fried, even ginseng is the same. I also heard that the temperature of the water used to clean ginseng varies according to the seasons. Warm water is used in winter, cold water is used in spring, summer and autumn, and honey is used to roast it. It's complicated, they chatted and laughed. When they saw Jing Yunzhao, Ji Shanshan said, Hey, you. Do you know how to use these things? Jing Yunzhao's expression didn't change. I'm not that guy. I have a name and a surname, Jing Yunzhao. As soon as this name was mentioned, these young people felt that it was somewhat familiar. Ah. You're that poor and bitter orphan who was abused by his adoptive father. One of them suddenly pointed at Jing Yunzhao. No wonder she looked familiar. It turned out that she was a famous person. When the others heard this, their expressions became a little strange. Chapter 336. Jing Yunzhao had already stated that she was not old Master Su's apprentice, but in their opinion, even if she wasn't, she should be the daughter or granddaughter of one of old Master Su's close friends. Otherwise, it would be difficult for her to enjoy such an honor. They didn't expect her to be an ordinary person from a small town. However, not everyone knew the name Jing Yunzhao. Most of the people present were relatively young and often paid attention to information on the internet, so they recognized her. Ji Shanshan looked at her suspiciously. She felt that Jing Yunzhao had changed too much. She had also seen reports about Jing Yunzhao on the internet, but those videos weren't specially processed. Even though the images were clear, it was different from television dramas. It wasn't high definition, so at that time, she only thought that Jing Yunzhao was pretty and her attention was attracted by her background. So when they saw Jing Yunzhao after such a long time, no one was able to recognize her. In fact, because of her relationship with Cui Jun, she was completely labeled as an annoying person. However, now that she knew her true identity, Ji Shanshan was a little shocked. Thinking back to when she first saw those videos, she even fiercely scolded that Xiao bastard's adoptive father. When she saw Jing Yunzhao being smashed until her head was bleeding, she was even sadder for a long time. She even begged her parents to send Jing Yunzhao some medicine that she could use on a daily basis. Even though the medicine had all been donated by Jing Yunzhao and the school, she still felt that she had already done enough and felt a lot better. However, at that time, she didn't expect to meet Jing Yunzhao face to face one day. There weren't many people who recognized Jing Yunzhao, but there were still 3 or 4 of them. When the people around them asked a few more questions, everyone fell silent. Ji Shanshan had mixed feelings. After all, the difference was too big. However, those who didn't quite understand felt relieved. Since she didn't come from a powerful family and wasn't Elder Su's disciple, there was a high chance that she came here for some other reason. It was even possible that, as Ji Shanshan had said, she had picked up or stolen the invitation. Almost instantly, many people were less polite to her. "So you're called Jing Yunzhao. Shan had even donated something to you before. You two are really fated," Cui Jun suddenly said from the side. Ji Shanshan suddenly felt a little nervous. She glanced at Jing Yunzhao and changed the topic. "It's just some herbs. If I knew she was capable, I wouldn't be so stupid. By the way, answer my question. Don't tell me you don't even know how to use these things." Jing Yunzhao raised her eyebrows. She found an interesting fact. Although Ji Shanshan had a bad temper and was blunt, she wasn't a bad person's character. "I know about 17 processing methods. Fire, burning, drying, roasting, simmering, stir-frying, forging, refining, drying, exposing, and dehydrating. As for the ginseng you just mentioned, there are actually many kinds. Each processing method is different. Cotinopsis pilosula is processed with warm water in winter and cold water in spring, summer, and autumn, but not all ginseng are processed like this. For example, Sephora, Salvia miltioriza, and figwort. As for these supplementary ingredients." Jing Yunzhao pointed at the wheat bran and continued, "Wheat bran has a sweet and mild taste. It has a neutralizing effect. After being fried, it has a fragrant aroma. It can strengthen the stomach and reduce the odor. Generally, it is used to make medicines that strengthen the spleen and stomach and have a stimulating and fishy smell. For example, fried Atractylodes macrocephala, fried silkworm, fried nutmeg. Rice is mainly made of japonica and glutinous rice, such as fried Cotinopsis pilosula with japonica and glutinous rice to make mottled pincers." Chapter 337. Jing Yunzhao went on and on until Cui Jun's face turned green. They were only 17 or 18 years old and were still in school. Even if they had contact with the business of medicinal herbs at home, they would still have a good understanding of it. They would only occasionally hear about it from adults. They were not like Jing Yunzhao, who spoke of all kinds of technical terms. There were so many supplementary materials here. If he explained each one in detail, he might not be able to explain it thoroughly even after a few hours. There were also the 17 concocting methods. Some of them looked very similar, but the differences were great. They were all the basics of making medicine. This bile is the color of a palm, and it's also relatively fresh. It should be from a cow. Even though it smells bad, it's bitter and cold in nature. It can remove heat and brighten one's eyes. If you use Erysima's bile to make it, it can remove its dryness and has the effect of clearing heat and extinguishing wind. Jing Yunzhao continued. Ji Shanshan was about to faint. "Stop, stop, stop. You know all these things." Ji Shanshan couldn't help but ask. She had also learned medicinal herbs from her parents. However, she was still stuck in the aspect of recognizing medicinal herbs because it involved too many things. Although they were not doctors, they had to know the characteristics of each medicinal herb. Moreover, they were more capable than doctors. They could recognize the authenticity of medicinal herbs, their age, and even their age at a glance. Since you want to make medicine, you naturally have to know all these things, Jing Yunzhao said. These things were stored in her memory, and she had already memorized them word by word. Since she met Su Lao, she had memorized a lot of pharmaceutical theories. Every Saturday, she would go to Su Lao's courtyard to experiment. With the help of the spirit jade and Su Lao, if she was still at the beginner stage, she would be hopeless. Aren't you an orphan? People on the internet said that you were bullied by your adoptive father when you were young. How could you know these things? Are you lying to the netizens? Cui Jun asked immediately. He could understand some of it, but if he had to point it out one by one and explain all the details, he knew he couldn't do it. Their parents should be able to do it, but that was decades of non-stop learning. In his father's words, there was no need for him to memorize or learn anything related to concocting medicine. As long as he came into contact with medicinal herbs, he would be influenced by them sooner or later. Jing Yunzhao hated this kind of despicable person who always used other people's past as an excuse. When Ji Shanshan found out that she was Jing Yunzhao, she immediately changed the topic. However, Cui Jun kept bringing it up. When Cui Jun said that, Tong Yen frowned. Cui Jun, you're exposing other people's shortcomings. Ji Shanshan was also a little embarrassed, but she also felt that Jing Yunzhao was suspicious. Her expression was very conflicted. Just because I didn't have a good life when I was young, does that mean that I will never be able to raise my head again? Cui Jun, you peed in your pants when you were young, right? Then can I say that you're still wearing diapers? Jing Yunzhao's words made the corners of the mouths of the people around him twitch. Ji Shanshan's eyes flashed. She felt that Jing Yunzhao was right, but she sided with Cui Jun. You shouldn't talk like that. It's rude. Then tell me, what is upbringing? Should we be like you? I'm sorry, but I really can't do it. After saying that, Jing Yunzhao suddenly walked to a bag of money in front of them. She pointed at the soil and said, "Who sent this here?" The supplementary soil is usually hearth soil or lust soil, right? Jing Yunzhao's expression changed suddenly. Even Cui Jun and the others subconsciously looked over. Chapter 338. There was a lot of hard soil in the bag, and it was dark in color. Isn't it marked with hearth soil? Is there something wrong with your eyes? Ji Shanshan asked directly. Jing Yunzhao smiled. Miss, don't open your mouth if you don't know anything. I know you're a joke the moment you open your mouth. You're someone who has studied medicine before, so you should know what hearth soil is, right? Isn't it just scorched soil from a stove? Ji Shanshan said angrily. That's right, but you're not telling the whole story. Hearth soil is also called crouching dragon liver. It's a lump of soil from the bottom of a stove used to burn firewood or weeds. Some of it is yellow in color, but some of it is purple or dark brown in color after being refined in fire for a long time. Its medicinal properties are also good. It's as hard as stone, and it's slightly warm. It can warm the stomach, stop bleeding, and stop vomiting. If I'm not mistaken, it should be scorched soil from burning coal, right? Jing Yunzhao said in one breath. She had been with Elder Su for a long time, so she couldn't tolerate this kind of thing. Jing Yunzhao's words stunned everyone present. One of the older people immediately went forward to inspect it, and his expression became unnatural. Soil from burning coal, no matter how old it was, couldn't be compared to real crouching dragon liver. There was a certain amount of poison in coal, and everyone knew what kind of effect it would have after using it. But the problem was that this was a medicine exhibition, and the things they collected should be of the best quality. How could such a mistake happen? Moreover, the herbs were checked before they were brought in. Jing Yunzhao had talked a lot today, and her mouth was dry. She had never been someone who liked to be in the limelight, but now that this matter was related to Old Man Su's reputation, she had to be in the limelight. It would also let others see that Old Man Su's invitation wasn't something that could be casually thrown out. She, Jing Yunzhao, had the ability. After she found out about such a big mistake, someone had already gone to find the person in charge. This medicine fair was actually jointly organized by several master pharmacists. The master pharmacists competed with each other, and there were also disciples competing with each other. There were even children competing with each other. For example, the Ji family and the Cui family. Even if Jing Yunzhao didn't have a good impression of them, they still couldn't be underestimated. The Ji family's ancestors had once concocted medicine for the palace. Thus, among the group of master pharmacists, the Ji family's status was relatively high. The Cui family's ancestors were also famous. Now that something had happened, it was time for everyone to correct each other's mistakes and shift the blame. Jing Yunzhao really didn't want to see such a scene, so he turned around and left. However, after such a commotion, the people who said that Jing Yunzhao was incapable of causing trouble disappeared. No matter how strong she was still stronger than her peers. Of course, even though some people used their strength to speak, there was still a portion of people who only remembered her tragic past. Seeing that she didn't care at all, they couldn't wait to tell everyone what kind of background she, Jing Yunzhao, had, and how lowly her background was. And among this group of people, Cui Jun was the leader. However, after being mocked by her, Cui Jun probably felt embarrassed and didn't appear in front of Jing Yunzhao for 2 or 3 days. It was said that he temporarily left because he had something to do. Since Cui Jun wasn't around, the others were more polite to Jing Yunzhao. Especially Ji Shanshan, her attitude was much better than before. Occasionally, she would appear in front of her with Tong Yan and take her to the nearby mountains to take a look. However, this person was more stubborn. On the surface, he was unconvinced, but he still looked like a cannon that would explode at the slightest provocation. After the 3 of them went down the mountain that night, a little girl ran over to Ji Shanshan and said, "Ji Shanshan, Cui Jun brought his cousin over. The 2 of them are studying the medicinal seeds." Chapter 339. After spending 2 or 3 days together, Jing Yunzhao knew that Ji Shanshan adored Cui Jun. It was said that the Ji and Cui families were close and the 2 were childhood sweethearts. Beauty was in the eye of the beholder. In Ji Shanshan's eyes, there was nothing wrong with Cui Jun. In the past 2 days, whenever she was with Jing Yunzhao and Tong Yan, she would mention Cui Jun out of the blue. To put it bluntly, she was a girl who prioritized love above all else. Now that she heard that Cui Jun had returned, she practically jumped up in joy. She no longer cared about Jing Yunzhao and Tong Yan as she ran towards the backyard. Shanshan is actually not a bad person. She's just a chatterbox and easily believes people. Tong Yan also spoke up for Ji Shanshan. Jing Yunzhao nodded and did not express her opinion. The friends around her were relatively rational and even smart. Xiao Haiqing was like that. Although Suchu was soft and cute, she was also good at thinking about the pros and cons. Not to mention the 2 boys, Tang Zihua and Gan Jinqin. She was used to interacting with people like them. When she interacted with Ji Shanshan again, she felt that it was pointless to talk to them. She could only be straightforward. However, the moment she spoke directly, Ji Shanshan would raise her voice and confront her, as if they were quarreling. Therefore, although Ji Shanshan insisted on dragging her along these few days, they did not talk much. Seeing that Jing Yunzhao did not speak, Tong Yan said, "You, be careful when you go back. Cui Jun left this time to find someone to embarrass you. You might not know this, but Cui Jun's cousin donated a lot of money and things to you. She's also a disciple of the Cui family and has been very sensitive to medicine since young. She can basically learn everything about medicine after being taught once. She's a real genius. She's also very good at her studies and always came on the last day of every year. There were still a few days before the final competition, 2 or 3 days. It was obvious that he was targeting her. Jing Yunzhao was very interested, especially after hearing Tong Yan's words. She wanted to know what this genius looked like. The two followed behind Ji Shanshan and arrived at the backyard 2 minutes later. As soon as they entered, they saw the cousin of the Cui family that Tong Yan mentioned. She looked natural and unrestrained, with a peaceful immortal aura around her. She looked to be in her early 20s and was wearing a white coat. Her long hair was draped over her shoulders and her eyes were curved. She had an otherworldly demeanor. As soon as Jing Yunzhao arrived, the other party's gaze also landed on her. Her eyes were filled with scrutiny, sizing her up from head to toe. Then, with a gentle smile, she walked over and extended her hand. Jing Yunzhao, it's really you. However, you seem to have become much prettier a few months ago. Seeing that you're living such a good life, I'm relieved. Jing Yunzhao raised his eyebrows. Sure enough, they were coming with great momentum. Thank you for your concern, Jing Yunzhao said politely. Although the other party was deliberately stirring up trouble, one would not slap a smiling face. If she were to target the other party from the start, then she would be unreasonable. 2 days ago, I heard from my cousin that you know how to concoct medicine. I didn't believe it at first and thought that he might have mistaken you for someone else. Who knew that he would look so sure? That's why I came to take a look. As cousin Cui spoke, she raised her hand to touch her head. Jing Yunzhao avoided her gaze, and the other party's hand was empty. However, she only paused for a moment. I'm sorry. The moment I see you, my heart aches. You're so beautiful, so I couldn't help but want to comfort you. If I've offended your pride, I'm really sorry. This cousin Cui had always been kind. However, since she wanted to put on an act, Jing Yunzhao was more than happy to oblige. I heard that you're Cui Jun's cousin. You do look alike, especially your personality. Bloodline is indeed a mysterious thing. The other party's face stiffened. How could she not know that Jing Yunzhao had insulted Cui Jun? Evil intentions, trash. And now, he was saying that she looked like Cui Jun. Chapter 340. Jing Yunzhao's temperament was cold, but when she said this, there was a faint smile on her face. In the eyes of the Cui family's cousins, that was contempt. The cousin squeezed out a smile. Do we look alike? Little Jun is a boy, I'm different from him, but he has a good heart. If there was any misunderstanding between you two before, I apologize on his behalf. I hope you won't take it to heart, okay? What are you talking about? It's just an unrelated person. Jing Yunzhao was still very calm. The two of them looked like they were having a very ordinary conversation, but in the eyes of outsiders, there was an inexplicable tit-for-tat between the two of them, as if they were about to fight. The atmosphere was a little strangely tense. Ji Shanshan couldn't understand it, so she didn't even bother to care. She stood in front of Cui Jun and said, "Why did you let cousin Cui come? Don't tell me you're looking for trouble with Jing Yunzhao. Cui Jun, we're not that kind of people. If she has the ability to participate, then it's her business. I don't want to care." She started to target Jing Yunzhao because she made Cui Jun wait at the door for more than an hour. She liked Cui Jun, and since they were young, she had never made him wait. Every time the two of them met, she would arrive a long time in advance, which was why she couldn't stand it. However, in the 2 days that Cui Jun wasn't around, she found that Jing Yunzhao wasn't as bad as she thought. At the very least, she didn't have any thoughts about Cui Jun, and she didn't know that Cui Jun was at the door. She was a person who made a clear distinction between love and hate. If Jing Yunzhao was wrong, then she would definitely not let her go. But since she wasn't wrong, then what was the point of her going down a dead end? However, Ji Shanshan's words were very harsh in Cui Jun's ears. He didn't like such a stupid girl. When they were young, she was slow to react and impatient. He could say that she was cute, but now she was still like this. She only grew a head, but not a brain. He imagined that his future girlfriend would be like his cousin, smart and talented, as if she had a halo around her. No matter where she went, she would attract people's attention. His cousin went to university in Serene City, and no matter what, she was incomparably outstanding. It was a pity that there were too few people like her. Don't talk nonsense, Ji Shanshan. My cousin is Jing Yunzhao's benefactor. When she was in school, she organized her classmates to donate money to Jing Yunzhao. She also gave him a lot of clothes, shoes, and various learning materials. She just heard that Jing Yunzhao is now a pharmacist, so she was curious and came to take a look. Besides, she used to come every year. What's so strange about it? Cui Jun immediately said. Ji Shanshan pursed her lips. Don't be mad. I was just saying. But then again, didn't Jing Yunzhao give everything to someone else? Cousin Cui's donation has nothing to do with her anymore. Ji Shanshan turned her head and said to Cousin Cui, Cousin, don't tell me you're Jing Yunzhao's benefactor. Don't make me laugh to death. He doesn't lack anything at all. That's just wishful thinking. Cui Jun frowned. How can you talk to my cousin like that? Ji Shanshan didn't like this cousin Cui. In fact, she hated her very much. She took advantage of the fact that she was a few years older than Cui Jun and her. She would always teach Cui Jun and her that they should study hard and not fall in love early. Every time Cui Jun was with her, this cousin would call him. She would either ask Cui Jun to buy something for her, or something happened at home. In short, this woman was especially troublesome. She had a good relationship with Cui Jun, so she couldn't do anything about it. She had made up her mind to marry Cui Jun when she grew up, but if there was one factor that could affect her thoughts, it was none other than this cousin. When she thought of having such a sister-in-law in the future, her head was about to explode.